How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on BGWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Fenurian.
And Volacel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, such as it has been. But first of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, by following us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or by joining us in our Discord chat channel, where you can chat with us at any time on a range of topics, controversial and more controversial. And you most easily can access that by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the show logo on any of our recent show posts, which will take you straight to our Discord server.
Yes, indeed. So I'm just going to fiddle with some settings while we're at it, because I've got some weird activity on my end of the stream. So let me just fiddle around with that. There we go. That should fix it. Okay. So, I guess we just jump straight into it with the weeks, because there's not a whole lot else really to go over this so far.
Go, Fern, go.
Okay, so what have I done this week? Lots of assorted various things. I tried to play some Skyrim. Tried to.
Why?
Because Skyrim is still a good game, even if they do tell you to buy it, over again every couple of months.
Yeah, but did you have some impetus for it?
Not really. I just kind of felt like that sort of game. And also,
I disagree. I don't think Skyrim is a good game. I don't think that we've managed to work out why people play it yet. But if you look at it on any particular axis, it will not have good. It will not reach the mark of good.
No, and that's where the mods come in, because they fix a lot of those problems. So yeah, a lot of that time was spent, installing mods, playing around with them, seeing a new mod, installing that, and sitting. Also, getting called away and letting the game sit for ridiculous amounts of time without being touched. So, yeah, that happened. But what I actually played is a little bit of Conan Exiles, which I've started up on the stream here. Don't worry, I've got the nudity filter mode turned off, so you're not going to see anything.
It's flapping dongs the game. Like, that's the whole point.
That is the whole point, and unfortunately we cannot put that on stream. Because aside from being completely ridiculous and somewhat hilarious, it is also not really suitable for all audiences.
But it's the only thing that game is known for. It's literally the only thing I know about it.
I think it's meme-worthy at this point. The game itself just came out. They just left early access, and to their credit, they've taken a lot of the criticism of the game on board and improved things an awful lot. Like, the progression curve is a bit smoother, the combat actually has meaning now. Even if you'll still get horribly murdered if you stop paying attention and forget to dodge roll. But of everything they've fixed, the wildly flapping dongs have not been fixed. They still have the same physics as cloth.
Why would you fix something like that?
You wouldn't at this point.
The game sells on it.
Yeah.
That's like fixing having big monsters in Monster Hunter. Like Conan Exile, Monster Hunter, you hunt monsters. Conan Exile, you have flapping dongs. Like, these things go together.
For some reason. But yes, I think it's just at a meme this point, so they have not fixed the physics there, and it is still ridiculous and hilarious.
Like, isn't like having a flapping dong the very first thing you do in that game?
Yes, it is.
Aren't you attached to something?
You're crucified.
Yeah, with your dong flapping in the wind.
Yes. And yeah,
Conan
walks up.
The game is quite literally built around flapping dongs.
Yeah, so that's how the game starts. You start off in the desert, crucified. Conan walks up, seemingly completely non-phased about the ridiculous physics going on in front of him.
Just clouted him across the face with your flapping dong.
The fact that it's flapping away in the breeze like some sort of flag. And he cuts you down and says, "Okay, you're kind of trapped here because of that bracelet that you've been given. So have fun with that." And then he just leaves you because he's kind of a jerk like that.
Well, I mean, Conan was never a hero.
No, he was not.
He was a barbarian. He's not called Conan the hero.
No, he's not. So you're basically just left to fend for yourself in the desert,
Left to flap in the wind.
Left to flap in the wind in the desert. Oh boy. So yeah, other than that, so far anyway that I've found, I haven't gotten too far in the game. I've gotten really just far enough to build myself my little thatch roof cottage, which may or may not get burninated at some point.
It probably will. This is a Conan.
It's a Conan game, so something horrible is going to happen. There's actually, if I pop up the inventory, there's this purge meter across the bottom down here. What that is every now and again, once that meter reaches a certain point, is your base gets attacked. So have fun with that. If you're not ready for that attack, well, that's...
Thatch roof cottage gets attacked.
Yeah, my thatch roof cottage gets attacked. The purge here hasn't moved too far. I saw it move up a little bit, and now it's gone down again. So I'm not sure exactly.
You might be able to acquire a resource better than thatch for the roof by the time the purge meter hits the top.
Maybe. Although, and this is the other big mechanic of the game, I'm not going to spend that resource on my slaves. They're going to live in thatch roof cottages.
And get burninated. So yeah, that is actually my current goal in this game, is to set up a Wheel of Pain, which is this thing here, which is quite expensive, but then you go out, you bonk random exiles on the head, and then you drag them back. In a game about flapping dongs, you need to think about your...
Yeah, bad phrase. Bad phrasing. You clop... No. You knock them out. Let's just go with that.
Knock them out? What?
No! Then you hog tie them and drag them back to your base, tie them to this wheel, and essentially torture them until they decide that they're going to work for you.
I see.
Which I suppose is an improvement over Ark, where you knock out a dinosaur and you just force feed it until it suddenly decides it's going to be friendly. So that's the core mechanic of the game. That and the whatever ritual you need to do to summon your god's avatar, which again I haven't looked too far into.
Isn't that setting doesn't it have uniformly evil gods? There's gods that are nasty and gods that are eldritch abominations. There's no good ones.
You actually do get the eldritch abomination god in this case. The god I've gone for is some sort of god of duality, where it's between fertility and death, which generally means cannibalism and blood orgies. But that's about as nice as things get in the Conan universe. Let's face it.
It's not a great place to live, I have to say.
No. There's a good TM adjacent god who is still all about, murder and torture. And then there's some that are just outright evil, which is, cannibalism and poisoning babies and things like that. I hope I have found metal here, because that's what I need right now.
The Conan universe is not on my list of destinations to visit in the Amala Network anytime soon.
No.
It's how about we go to Dark Sun instead? It's the tier that it's on.
Yeah. Somewhere a little bit happier, the literal hell. So yeah, the game is built for multiplayer and single player, so you can go in and ignore the various problems, I guess.
Your dongs together.
You can flap your dongs together if you so want. But these sorts of survival games tend to have a lot of problems in multiplayer, not aside from a technical standpoint. It's because people are dicks and just cannot work together. Yes.
This is a phallically focused game. You asked for this.
I didn't ask for it, but that's what I ended up with. And it was inevitable, and I should have seen this coming. Oh boy.
Everything's going to be an innuendo while this game's being talked about.
Yep, it is.
Too easy. It's like when Mara's on screen. Doesn't matter what he said, it's all an innuendo, even if it isn't meant to be.
Mara seems to exist in a space entirely made of dick puns.
Nowadays he is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's hard to do anything else with that particular character.
Character/entity thing. It's a giant knob in a chariot. What else are you supposed to do with it?
The green one.
Yeah, for some reason.
I mean, I believe that's worth mentioning, unless there's something I don't know about other people.
Mara was a girl in Strange Journey.
How?
I don't know. I haven't seen the model yet. I'll let you know on Saturday.
I think I should Google this, but if I do, I think I might end up on some sort of watch list.
Yeah, it's called Strange Journey. It's not called Entirely Conventional Journey.
This is true. So really, that's my week there, honestly, is that and wrestling with Skyrim. I probably have some mods to talk about next week. I could actually talk about a few this week, but meh. I want to see them through to the end first. It's worth noting, though, that there are mods out there with full stories, full voice acting, and actually competently done voice acting. And when I say competently done, I mean better than Bethesda. Which, let's face it, is not a high bar to set.
The amateur Let's Dub people are better than Bethesda's voice actors.
Yeah.
It's not hard. They're YouTubers that do it for free.
You know, I've been wondering, like, are we getting more discerning about what we are willing to accept, or actually getting worse?
Possibly a bit of both.
In what ways?
Well, I don't. I feel like my impression of voice acting in general, in dubs for particularly localized stuff, I feel like it's somehow worse than it once was. I don't know if my standards are higher or if it's actually worse.
There are a lot of old hats that are just not very good that hang around, but...
So is it like people from like early Pokemon haven't gotten any better and they keep getting worse?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think I want those people to get better. The bad voice acting and the ridiculousness, I guess, of that series is part of the charm. It would ruin the nostalgia if they suddenly became talented voice actors.
For voice actors like the dudes in Pokemon, they've had like the money gig from just grandfathering in their character forever that they've never had to improve.
Mm-hmm.
So they've stayed consistently bad.
The series just keeps going, so they keep needing to get employed.
Yeah. And like franchise characters that aren't in a continuous universe, like Agumon and stuff, get the same treatment. But Joseph Seth actually did get better. So it's kind of a bad example.
Yeah.
And then he retired.
Yeah.
And then he came back for the movies.
Yeah. Incidentally, those movies, why does Agumon look like he hasn't been fed in about a month? Seriously.
Well, do you ever see him getting fed? Like, I mean,
yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
All the dang time. It's a plot point. They have to be fed to Digivolve. And they show them stuff in their faces.
It's been a very long time since I've watched anything Digimon. And by very long time, I mean like on the order of decades.
I actually nabbed the new Digimon World, new-ish Digimon World game while it was on sale the other day. I just haven't had a chance to play it yet.
I love me some Digimon. Yeah.
I liked the original Digimon World on the PlayStation 1 for all of its faults.
I don't have any fond memories of that game. I remember it kicking my butt up and down the street.
I learned to love my Sukamon. Because that's what you'd end up with.
You would spend
Is that the
hours.
flinging one?
That's the one.
Yeah. It's the poop that flings more poop.
It is poop perception.
Like,
yes.
It's like green and it throws pink stuff.
They are multicolored now.
Yeah, there's a gold one, and actually the gold one is really good in.
The gold one is
Subsleeve.
special.
Yes.
Yeah, all the new ones with the new colors, the metallic colors, are made specifically for the video games to act like the metal slime of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you get like a party full of gold Numemons that are the poop Sukamons that are gold with a like wrapper, big huge $ chain on them.
Yes.
And you just give them all EXP up stuff and equip them with all EXP earned items and send them into battle. And they have a natural passive for EXP up and you use them to grind. And you get like 20 levels of battle. That's how you fill out your compendium.
Yep. That's true.
And they were introduced just for the Vidya games. And they're in all the Vidya games for that reason.
Yeah.
The regular Sukamon's a failure state in most video games. Like, you done goofed something up pretty bad.
Yeah, especially the early ones.
What happened? He was what happened if you didn't raise your Digimon correctly in the original Digimon.
If their virus level got too high, you'd end up with a Sukamon.
No, I'm talking about the virtual pet.
Yeah.
The Tamagotchi, the original Digimon. That's what happened to your Digimon if you didn't take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Turned into poop.
It turned into a poop.
Basically.
Poop with eyes.
Turned into poop. Yeah. But yeah. What were we talking about? Voice acting, right?
Voice acting, I think. We kind of tangented it there too.
But yeah, thankfully we're getting new talent in that's actually pretty good and a lot better than these grandfathered in old hats. And we're in the last like 7-ish years.
Who like Bryce Papenbrook?
Yeah, like Bryce Papenbrook's a different animal entirely because he came in on his father's coattails with the Union. That's
Yeah,
different.
Unions
He
are
is
bad for
Newtown.
talent.
unions are bad for just about
Yeah.
everything.
Unions don't care about things like talent. Problem with unions. Merit doesn't figure into their calculation.
Nah.
Unions especially don't belong in the entertainment industry.
Representation is always a good thing, except that it ends up cutting across other values.
Yeah, you have to give something up for it. That's usually quality. But yeah, we have like the ones that have popped up recently, like Mary Lee Lynn and Crispin Freeman and Wendy Lee and a few other dudes that have just really started getting roles recently. So they're coming in slowly, and we have a whole bunch of amateurs that are really good on YouTube doing stuff like the Let's Dub Project. So
Yeah.
there are we just heard better voice actors these days, and we know that there can be good English voice acting. It's not just Bebop and Yu Yu Hakusho that have decent dubs. Like, we're getting stuff that actually has good voice acting now, so when a bad one shows up, we're actually able to recognize it. Until like 2005, we couldn't tell.
That's because the old voice actors, like, they were the people who do voices in like commercials on the radio. Like, that was their job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was their job was not to play characters in animated stories. It was
to
sell a product.
And that's if you were lucky.
Putting on goofy voices.
Goofy voices in Australia, if you go to radio voice ad, they all sound exactly the same. There's really only just one voice they use for it. And it could be multiple people, but they will put on exactly the same voice. It's
And some of the ones on New Zealand radio sound like Teen Girl Squad characters.
Oh, good grief.
The ones here all homogenize and sound exactly the same, but you would get those dudes if you were lucky pre-2005. Like, you mostly had dudes sitting in the office, the developers themselves, that had to come do the voice acting or find somebody that could kind of do it in the intern list. Like,
well, most of the stable at the late great ADV used to do radio work on the side, and presumably television voiceover work as well.
Yeah. Anime was a bit of step ahead of that, but all video games were like that.
So yeah.
But yeah. I think we're better just because we actually have some good voice actors in the pool, so we can tell when a bad voice actor exists now. Because we didn't used to have any metric to compare them to before. It was just that was the voice acting.
Yeah, it was all pretty much bad.
About Conker's bad Fur Days voice acting.
The bad voice acting in that game works though.
I think that is the developers, if I recall correctly.
A good chunk of the cast is, yeah.
They're like legendarily bad voice acting.
Yeah, but if that game had good voice acting, I don't think it would have worked.
No, I think it actually flies better because of the terrible voices.
Yeah. So what else have I actually poked around at this week? Fate Grand Order, yes, which I was just poking at just now, actually, before the show. The Fate Zero event just ended. And I'm happy to say I got my Irie at the absolute last moment. I still did not get a Skander because the gacha hates everybody.
Yep. Well, there must be some people that it doesn't hate because everybody but me seems to have good servant.
Yeah, this guy here, Ari.
What?
You.
No, I'm not saying anything. Y'all get mad when I say anything about this game.
That's because the gacha loves you.
Yeah, and you don't play it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a solid event. I'm not the highest level player, so I wasn't able to get everything out of it. But, now I'm actually lost. What have I gone? So, yeah, it's just a good, solid mid-range event. What is coming up next? I believe we have a raid event coming up next.
Yeah, the next event is coming out in 3 days. It is the Rashomon event.
That's the one.
And it is for high-level players only. And I do not qualify, as I have been finding out over the course of today, trying to see if it's possible at all to prepare myself for it. And my conclusion thus far is that it's functionally not.
Yeah.
I don't think I will be able to get to a position where I can participate. And not just in the short term, but I'm wondering if I'll ever be able to.
You need at least a little bit of gacha love to do it.
Yeah, I've been uniformly failing to catch up throughout the entire course of my time playing. Like, I was roughly as far behind participating in the Count of Monte Cristo event as I am now from participating in the Rashomon event, which are supposed to be sort of like the same tier of players, but it's just that they move out of my range faster than I can move in range. And it's sort of like the largest leaps in power that you are likely to get in this game are from events because of the amount of like ascension materials and experience cards and stuff that you can get out of them. But the fact is that you can still get those sorts of rewards from expert player level events, and you can't participate in them if you are not at their level. So they move out of range faster than you can move into their range, as a general rule. Because the next one will also be for veteran players, and it has to be, you know, difficult enough to give them a challenge. So it will be pitched at their level, where they get twice as many events as the people who aren't so high level. So yeah, it ends up being a vicious cycle where you can't seem to catch up with your gacha love. And I have negative gacha love.
You have very negative gacha love.
But yeah, it's disappointing. I won't be able to participate in this one, most likely. I seriously doubt it, because I started today working on E Pluribus Unum, and it's frankly really quite hard for me. Like, it's not noted as a hard chapter compared to Camelot, which is brutal, but it's hard enough to be a roadblock for me, because, you know, I'm just running into the issue where I don't have any servants who have sufficient hit points to survive, so I can't really do the fight because my dudes just die. But yeah, I might be able to think of a strategy for it. I've gotten through things that are tougher than I'm supposed to before, so maybe I'll think of something. But yeah, at present it's looking like a no-go situation. But there's another raid event coming in a couple of months, Onigashima, which is designed to be at least accessible to lower level players, and that its requirement is not to complete the latest story chapter. Its requirement is to complete Fuyuki, the tutorial chapter. So yeah, I should have a bit more fortune with that, I hope.
Yeah, I'm actually have to admit I'm a little bit glad to have an event that's out of my range this time. So now I can actually catch up on the story.
Yeah, you can get some of the background stuff done.
Yeah. Like, I've got a whole chapter of gender-flipped Francis Drake to finish up yet. I think I'm about halfway through it. So yeah, running around pretending to be a pirate and being incredibly silly about it.
Yeah, fiddledy.
Pretty much. The whole chapter is more or less Francis Drake being a pirate and loving it. Also, Asterios is there for some reason and being grumpy.
He's a nice guy, though.
Yeah,
he ends up seeming just like a nice guy. Like, he's more heroic than most of the heroes that you meet.
Even if he just stands there saying nothing most of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had a lot of fun with that event. I did make a good jump in power. I ended up leveling up John Alter for the event, and now she's my front runner servant. And I am one single monument away from doing Nero's final ascension, and the game just refuses to give it to me. Why, game? Why are you like this?
Monuments are not rare at all.
They're not that rare.
They are the common ascension material.
Yes. So no, it's because it's a material I want. The game is refusing to give it to me. I just sat down and ground the dailies, and okay, it gave me a bunch of feathers, which was nice, but no monument. I want my lion hugging Nero.
Get feathers when you're trying to get them.
Yes,
getting feathers is always the hardest part of any ascension.
Yes, although I do need feathers, so that's good. So yeah. The not just the gacha hating me today, it's the RNG in general. But then RNG tends to hate everybody. Except Ari. So that's pretty much my week. So I will leave that there with a really good segue, if you want to take it up.
Right. I guess So I also played Grand Order because I've actually got time to play Grand Order since it's a mobile game. But I could not kill Darius. I made an attempt to kill Darius, the final boss of the Fate Zero event, but it was basically just out of my reach for the exact same reason that I've delineated already, and that I didn't have the hit points needed. I devised a strategy which could work on paper, as I mentioned last week. The problem is I don't have anything like that sort of luck. I just got crushed.
Yeah.
Because if you have one trash mob attack the wrong thing at the wrong time, which will happen, you basically get destroyed because the trash can one-shot your servant. You don't have 4-star or better.
Yes, you didn't fully accommodate for Robin Hood's squishiness.
It's not a matter of whether I fully accommodated for it. It was not possible to fully accommodate for it, not without having unbelievable luck. So, yeah, if I had something equivalent, which wasn't of a knight class, maybe I could have done it. But the amount of AP which I would have had to blow to try and work it out just wasn't well. So I decided to focus on clearing the shop instead. And it got down to 3 hours, I think, before the close of the event. And then I finally managed to clear the shop. Got everything, including the massive pile of crest worms that I didn't really want.
Gross.
So yeah, I cleared the entire shop, which is a good boost in ascension materials. I ascended a bunch of dudes. Some of them I got to their final stage. Like Ushi's now ascended to the stage, although I don't have the X to actually pump her up that high. But yeah, I've made some progress on that front. But yeah, in the end, I'm still wrestling with the sort of the 3-star limitation. Like as I said, I was trying to do E Pluribus Unum today, the America chapter, and it was not working for me. It's not that I got defeated, it's just that I barely scraped through one mission, and the next mission that followed it was twice as hard. And I was like, I can't even conceive how, in theory, I can do this without getting destroyed. It's a limitation on my resource because I don't have the sorts of servants people do. Like, I can pick a decent DPS from the support list, or I can pick a decent support.
But not
Either
both.
way, I won't be able to. I can't have both, so I can't finish. So yeah, I just don't. I don't have anybody who can really carry me. Like you sort of need to have a really good support or a really good damage dealer. Like, you can't get away with only having one. And if you've only got access to 3 stars, you really don't know what it takes. Like, the closest thing to a really good damage dealer in the 3-star arena is Robin Hood, but you need a support that would be capable of keeping Robin Hood alive, which I don't even know how you would go about that. But yeah, so I really wanted to participate in the Rashomon event, but I can't think of a way that I could possibly do it. So I've got 3 days to get clear. But the next event is Journey to the West, which is another one which is for everybody. I don't know. I don't think that there's a welfare servant wrong. I don't think there is though. But yeah, there's a more standard one, which is the Type Moon take on the story, which I'm sure will be spectacularly ridiculous.
It's going to get incredibly silly very fast.
It's Type Moon. How could it not be spectacular?
Yes.
Yeah. Looking forward to that because I always enjoy their events. They're always silly, always fun. But yeah. So what else did I play this week? Mainly, I kept playing Diablo 3. So, as I mentioned last week, I picked up Diablo 3 so I could try it out after Ari talked about it. And Ari was spot on for the most part.
Yep.
The problem is that the things that he commented on being good turned out not to be so good after a little while. What I mean by this really is that, yes, the port is relatively good in the sense of everything's being adapted well, and the drop rate is no longer like punishingly bad. The problem is that it's skewed way too far in the opposite direction. So I've
How many
played
shields did you wind up with? Legendary shields?
I got, in the span of one afternoon playing, I got 3 legendary shields and about 2 or 3 other legendaries besides.
Good grief, that's not what legendary means.
No, it's not what legendary means at all. Like, this is less legendary than World of Warcraft.
And the legendary power scaling in Diablo is not small at all.
No.
No, like I started the game when I started playing it. I started the game on normal difficulty because in Diablo 2 you start on normal difficulty. If you had the capacity to start on nightmare difficulty in Diablo 2, you would not have even been able to kill the first thing you met.
Oh, thank you.
You would just die. There would be no two ways about it. It's not possible. So I was like, oh, so you start on normal, right? That's what you do. You're supposed to do Diablo, right? Diablo functions that way. So yeah, I started on normal, and very rapidly, I got to the point where I was one-shotting everything. And by the time I was in Act 2, everything died in one hit, and I was starting to get exceedingly bored. So I bumped the difficulty up the one notch that they let you, which is to go from normal to hard. And
It's not much of a jump.
yeah, I could barely tell that it had changed at all. It was only by the time I got to the... Ooh, I just got a gold crown tiny barrel.
Neat.
By the time I stopped playing yesterday, because I was starting to get a bit bored with it, I had finally started finding things that were able to damage me if I was playing like super, super recklessly. But the boss that I fought immediately before I signed off for the night, like, he had been like doing the villain laugh thing for ages, and like they really tried to build him up as a villain, and then he like died in less than 5 seconds. And that includes the time I spent moving up to where he was.
Oh dear.
So
Yep. That's Zoltan Coolio.
yeah, so it's just hard for me to really care about the game because I have walked over it so far, and it's all very well and good saying, "Oh well, you should just wait till the higher difficulty levels." Yeah, I can't access them. Thanks so very much.
Yeah.
I can't do anything.
There's no challenge to the game. By the time you are actually in a position to unlock those difficulty levels, you're bored.
Yeah,
Just
like,
telling somebody you can have fun with the game after you beat it is not a selling point to most people.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I don't know. Like, I think that they have pushed the gearing curve way too far, favouring the player in the rotation. I don't know what it's like on PC. I don't know if they shower you with legendary.
It's the same.
But
PC and the console versions are pretty much the same at this point.
I heard that they had finally managed to get them, but yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just not fun. It's not fun because I walk over everything. I spend all of my time just hitting the kill everything around me button over and over.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't like the scenario where you feel like you don't have any chance of ever getting a piece of gear that you want, but I also don't like the scenario of being barraged with God mode hacker gear all the time and never having a challenge because I can press a button and something will take 70k damage too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blizzard doesn't understand scaling or balance at all. When it
They
comes
don't understand their players, period. That's the problem.
So they tend to go with the lowest common denominator to start with and figure it out from there.
They always choose the simplest incorrect fix without thinking of the implications whenever they see any complaint or think something needs addressing. Like, the drop rates are really stupid and the real life auction house is actually killing the game. Okay, well, we'll up the drop rates. But wait a minute, the game right now is scaled so that players don't have this gear. If we give it to them, they're just going to one-shot everything. Oh, well. They don't think that far ahead.
I feel like they've made some pretty hefty mistakes in their balancing of player power versus challenge. I don't really know. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know if I'll keep playing. There's a good chance that I will, just so that I can go through and see how the story plays out. Although the writing is quite bad.
Oh yeah, that's Blizzard standard fare though.
Like they telegraph everything so violently strongly that it's sort of embarrassing. And I don't know, like, I'm supposed to take characters at face value when they say things, and when they say things while twirling their moustache and saying "moi ha ha ha," I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to believe them. Like, most people wouldn't. I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe most people are super, super gullible.
Yeah. It also put us in a precarious position last night when you were talking about it while we were just sitting on Discord, where I had these fights in my head and remember them having like real mechanics you had to pay attention to when the game first came out, and now you don't.
Yeah, like this was needle to a balloon stuff. Like, I don't want to have to wait till Torment 10 to actually see how these fights play out.
Yeah, you're gonna the bosses are, some of them are really spectacular and cool. Like the next boss you'll come up on, the end of the act boss, it's a really good boss. He's my favorite boss in the game. And he has a lot of really cool and interesting mechanics you got to pay attention to. But it doesn't matter if he can't kill you anymore.
No, I mean, I fought Butcher, and I got to see what Butcher did to a certain extent. But that boiled down to him, you know, he got to charge once or twice, and the floor caught on fire once or twice. But
Yeah.
mostly I just stood on his face and killed him, because I could stand on the burning floor and stand in his charge and all that stuff, and it wouldn't do a damn thing. So
Yeah, the way that fight used to work was, it was a fairly interesting fight. It wasn't the best one in the game, but it was okay. He would have he had
the only fight that I can talk about where the boss lasted more than like 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah. It used to be you would have to bait out his chain or dodge it, or be sure you were out of range of it so he didn't pull you towards him and mess up your positioning the whole fight. Random parts of the floor would catch on fire, and as the fight went on longer, because it was time-based, more and more the floor would catch fire each time, until eventually only one panel would be safe at any time, every time it caught fire. And you really couldn't make any progress on his health bar unless he had hit a wall and was stunned. Because when he charges and hits the wall, he gets stunned and takes bonus damage. And that's how you're supposed to do the fight.
I didn't even know that happened. Like, I stood on his face and killed him in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. That's how the fight used to go.
Seconds, but he did last maybe 10 or 15.
Yeah, that's how that fight used to go. The fight now is just hold the attack button and he falls over.
Name.
No, I wish somebody had told me that normal skill level was for people who didn't actually want to play the game.
Even hard right now
was
is not
any different to that.
Yeah, like, until you beat the game and those other difficulties unlock now, which is really, really dumb. Difficulty levels are meant to exist to make sure the player has an option where they can pick a level of challenge that they feel is acceptable. But if you don't give them access to them, they may as well not exist.
I don't know whether I have access to them or not. Like, I picked normal for the aforementioned reason that that's what you do in. Like, you didn't have access to them in Diablo 2 because to try and play Nightmare before playing normal would have been suicide. Try and play the ones above that before finishing Nightmare would have been suicide. Like, that was my logic going in, and it was categorically wrong.
Yeah, and this is... I do not like the difficulty changes they made with the big difficulty overhaul. Like, at all. I think it was just fine the way it was before. It was 4 difficulty levels of normal, which was a little bit easier than Diablo 2's normal. Like, you could call it normal and not hard. Hard, which was more equivalent to Diablo 2's difficulty. And, you know, hate yourself mode, which I don't know if you had to unlock or not. But, yeah.
Normal is now like Elwyn Forest mode. Like,
not even.
You're not going to get killed by the neutral boars.
There were packs of Murlocs or something that could at least kill you in Elwyn Forest.
In the early days,
the very first
Hogwarts.
time I played it, in the very first time I played it, yeah, I did take a lot of damage from Murlocs. Like, that was definitely a thing. But yeah,
but there's just too much.
Elwyn Forest and full heirlooms. It's Elwyn Forest and full heirlooms.
A nap, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the only challenge that I have faced so far has been, did I pick the right path to explore everywhere before going to the exit?
And of course, every single time you want to go the right way, you can't find it. And every time you don't, you wind up going the right way by accident.
Yeah, it's the game has been uniformly a disappointment so far because there is not a trace of Diablo in it. Like, it doesn't feel like playing Diablo. It feels like playing Cookie Clicker.
Yeah. If you actually poke around online at the moment, you'll say, and search for Diablo 2 sequel, a lot of the people will actually point you towards Grim Dawn. Which is actually Titan Quest sequel, but whatever.
Well, yeah. The fact is that Titan Quest feels more like Diablo than Diablo 3 does.
Like Grim Dawn
Easily.
has,
Like, it's not even no contest. I haven't played Grim Dawn at all, so I can't say anything.
yeah. It also starts off with only 2 difficulties unlocked, which is normal and veteran mode. Veteran mode it starts you off fairly easy, but it does curve up over time. So, yeah, it's good, and there are higher difficulties to unlock once you're not going to get yourself completely demolished by them. Diablo doesn't, from my experience. It's just, here you go. It's easy, it's boring, and by the time you've actually got to a point where there's some challenge in the game, you've already turned it off.
Yeah, the game has just been busted by that difficulty patch that made the new difficulty levels. The decision to lock the higher difficulties behind completion of the game was the dumbest decision they could have made.
Yeah.
It made sense originally because you needed end-game gear from a previous difficulty to start the new difficulty. That was the old system.
Yeah, I think that's what they were doing with this now, but it just doesn't work with the base difficulties they have in the game right now. All new players are going to have the same experience you do, where they pick up the game and they get bored because there's no challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't feel like this is even like, oh, well, we need to make it so the casuals can play at level difficulty. Like, I think that this is worse than that.
Yeah, this is...
Not to mention there's this whole esports-esque seasons thing going on. It sounds like complete nonsense to me.
Yeah, I think that what's going on here, like I don't know if there is a weighting on the type of stats that you get early on relative to the type of stats you get later. But I don't know if that's an effect. It may not be, but basically you could have gotten away with doing what you did with the gear if all the gear didn't have healing on it. Because the thing with Diablo 2 that made it a game that you played cautiously was because potions had to be farmed or bought, and that was for a lot of classes the only meaningful way to get your health back. In this one, you get a gajillion life every time you hit something. You get a gajillion life per second. You have an unlimited recharging potion, and the enemies spew potions everywhere while you fight them. Like, there are so many ways to get your health back that you never, ever feel in any kind of danger. At least in as much of the game as I've played. Because you regenerate your health so spectacularly fast. The idea of regenerating your health was completely alien to the Diablo 2 mindset. Like, there were builds that specialized. There were character builds and gear builds that specialized. But the normal experience playing early on was your health was very precious and you had to be careful with what you did.
Yeah, I think they over-embraced when they did a bunch of their overhauls the idea of you need to never stop moving as the player. And your health was never that big of a deal in between fights. It would always fill itself back up somehow. In the original release, you could actually die and lose it during a fight, and you'd have your one potion usage then. But the in between fights, it wasn't something you paid attention to. And this is something that's really weird talking about these games, because there's a case to be made for making a game so that you don't ever have to stop. But for Diablo, that's a total tonal change for gameplay. When you switch from slow and methodical to never stop and keep going.
Yeah, the thing is that there are established expectations for Diablo, like, and the genre in general. That you can't just, run roughshod over them, because there will be a cost to doing so, because of the expectations of the player base, because of the way the game and the genre in general is structured. Like, you can't just be reckless because you're the game creator and you're going to do things the way we want. Like, you're going to pay a cost for it. And in this case, the cost for making health so easy to regenerate, like it might as well automatically come back like in Call of Duty. Like, it makes it a different game. That one change is enough to make it into a different game entirely.
the mindset of the player that's going to have the ability to be at full health at all times is totally different from the one that has to pay attention to it. The way the person plays it.
This is a very powerful principle in this case. Like, I mean, because if you look at it in that light, it makes Borderlands more like Diablo 2 than Diablo 3 is. Because Borderlands has the same sort of traits of conservation, of the things that you've got to be careful how you manage your resources. Because for a lot of classes, it's rough finding ways to get your health back at times. That's just the way it is. That's part of being an ARPG, is to make your way in the world using the things you find in the world. And, you know, Diablo 3 is not like that. Diablo 3 is simply, you know, you are perfectly self-sufficient all the time.
Yeah, It used to have redeeming qualities about it, like the boss mechanics and some of the more interesting builds you would do to make some things easier, but that's not applicable anymore because the new player is not going to have to worry about any of that.
I mean, maybe it is applicable in a part of the game that I don't know if I'll ever get to see. But, you know, when you get to those high-end builds, they play with the sort of efficiency that I already play with, because I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Like when I see high-end players playing, they interact with the game almost as little as I do. So at best there's going to be this sort of space in the middle of the game, like between the start and the end, where you're actually playing the game, as opposed to having the game sort of take place while you press one button on the keys on the controller. Like it's
those people that are still playing the game are the super duper hardcore that have put like thousands of hours into the game and know how to perfectly optimize a build to do one thing stupid well, and they're showing that off. So, but even then, I don't know with the higher difficulties anymore after the difficulty revamp. The difficulty revamp just screwed everything up about that game, and my interpretations of systems in the game don't fit anymore. They're just wrong because they don't exist. The original Diablo 3 does not exist anymore. So the experience you get as a new player is not the same at all. It's nothing like the original game, and it just it's so frustrating because I didn't think about this when I was recommending it to you, because on PC I had the difficulties already unlocked because I cleared the game when the difficulty change came out, so I didn't think about it. And on the PS3 I didn't play through it very much, but I noted the difficulties were locked. So it's just like, oh, that's just a thing. I didn't think about just what that did to the game.
Yeah, and so I don't hold you responsible for it. Like I bought the game knowing that it might not be all that it cracked up. It was on the cheap, so I'm not broken up by it or anything. But yeah, I'm mainly just disappointed. Like, why Blizzard? You already know how popular Diablo 2 is. You know this. That's why you continue to update it after a gajillion years. Because people love it. Did you not think that maybe people loved it because they liked some of the things in the game?
Yeah.
They didn't like it because you're wonderful people and you're the people who made it. They don't like your imagination. They like the game.
One more rant, by the way. The Necromancer. Why are they charging so much?
Because anybody who's still playing the game will pay it in a trice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like anybody that's still got the game after this many years and is playing it is going to try it out.
Yeah.
I got it on the discount with the code, but it's not worth it. It is the AFK class. There is no management of your minions. I mean, there is, but it doesn't matter. And you. Well,
that's the thing with most of the features in the game, though, right now, isn't it?
It's like, there. It just doesn't matter.
There, but they don't matter. You don't have to think about it. It'll do it for itself.
Yeah. It's just even worse with the Necromancer, having to start over with the initial difficulty modes and having the class just play by itself. The skeletons even auto summon themselves. Like, you're just like, okay, I always got 7 dudes that are just going to clear the dungeon for me. Even on hard, all they take is like 4 seconds to kill anything.
I don't understand how this happened.
I don't know.
I think it's just Blizzard is bad at math. They didn't. I don't even think they realized what they were doing. I think they just said, "Oh, well, we need to rejig the difficulty modes for some reason that I'm sure was important and made sense at the time," and did not think about any of the systems that were tied to the difficulty mechanic. Like you can't mess with the difficulty levels without accommodating players that are starting the game late and expect them to be happy if they were looking for something like the experience in Diablo 2. And if you give them all this gear now that your real life auction house is gone, and you forget that that gear you're giving them is so ridiculous, like 350% damage ridiculous increases, you know, if you're just showering them in this, it's not going to work with the level of health the mobs have anymore. You got to scale the mobs' health up or something to go with it, and they just didn't do that.
Yeah, like my impression in Diablo 2, and I was never a Diablo 2 theory crafter. I played the game for fun of it. My impression was that your odds of getting better loot improved the higher the difficulty level you were on. So you got the loot to deal with the extra difficulty that was in the game. That was how it worked. That was the purpose. Like you didn't get any of the top end stuff in normal. You simply couldn't. The odds were like, you know, less than a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent of getting really powerful gear in normal mode because you didn't need it. And you know, whatever the third one was called, Inferno, Hell, I can't remember. You really needed the sort of gear that you got to survive. In this case, you're getting the top end gear. You're just not getting the. It's just it's appearing without the commensurate challenge. Like if I get even better gear from the higher skill levels, like where is the challenge going to be? And when scaling takes place on this level, there is one destination for it in the end, and it's going to be like, you know, Mists of Pandaria scaling, where there is no difference between immortality. There's like a hairline difference between immortality and instagem. That's where the scaling ends up. It becomes swingier and swingier. You can't afford to do this sort of thing. You can't have player power be so high because you're abdicating your control over the scaling eventually.
Yeah, I mean, Diablo 3 has always had breakpoints in gear where things just got a lot easier after a certain point, but if you just immediately hit all those points right away because they're showering you in gear now, it doesn't matter what's happened. If you haven't scaled the bosses up to have like 400% more health, it ain't gonna matter.
Yeah, I spent, you spend a whole bunch of time chasing down the Witch Magda, and Ari said that she never has much, but laying that aside, laying their terrible narrative decisions and narrative game design breaks aside, like, I spend all this time chasing this woman, and I jump on her, and she dies literally instantly. I didn't see any of that fight's mechanics. I saw a whole bunch of like sigils appear on the ground and zombies and stuff start to spawn and that. I didn't see what any of it did because she just died instantaneously.
Yeah, she used to be a low health boss that you could either try and rush down to finish the fight quickly, or you had to find a way to deal with the zombies that kept spawning and never stopped and spawned faster and faster as the fight went on. So it was a DPS race on a fairly squishy boss. And she was a mid boss. She wasn't a real boss. She's like
I understand that, but the fact is that it didn't make a difference because to me, she had the same amount of health as some random demon in the wilderness.
Yeah, she's had as much health as a goat man.
They've made a real hash of it, and I don't understand why. And furthermore, is there any pushback? Like, does anybody even care?
I don't know. This change came years after the game was already out. It was like 2-ish years post-release that the difficulty overhaul happened. And the real-life auction house getting the boot was like 2 or 3 years afterwards, too. And by then, people had played and liked or dismissed the game like entirely by that point. The people that were going to keep playing were there forever already, and they're not going anywhere. So I don't know who this change was aimed at. I wasn't following like the community ever for Diablo 3. I followed it amongst my friends and played it solo mostly.
Yeah, I sort of vaguely remember it coming out around the time of SWTOR or something, didn't it? Like, I'm pretty sure we were playing that.
Oh,
sometime in, I think it was a little bit earlier than that, but yeah, in that ballpark.
Yeah, like that's a long time ago, but I just why have they made such a spectacular set of gaffes? Like this is just
It's
beyond
Blizzard.
pale.
Your
I know.
answer is Blizzard.
I know, but the thing is that even that's not very grand. That's not a very fine grained answer to the question. What failing of the human spirit is it that causes this sort of design? Like, is it arrogance? Is it like is this a sheer stupidity or hubris or what? Like, what leads you to think that this is helpful? Like, is it market statistics and things are just like I never expected that the Switch would be like a spectacularly great selling game console and that the Switch version of games sells better than the other version almost all the time. Like, I didn't expect that to happen. It did. So, I mean, my judgments are not necessarily accurate. This seems like a very, very, very bizarre sort of pattern that they continue. This is like Capcom tier consistency of bad, except without the Monster Hunter part to redeem it.
For reference, by the way, Diablo 3 released in May 2012.
Good gravy, it's over half a decade old.
Yeah, don't remind me. I'm feeling old enough already.
When did Diablo 2 come out? 2004? 2002? 2000?
2002, I think? I'll ask that, except I'm fighting Komodo Dragon.
Yeah, so we're approaching pretty old for the video game. Yeah, Blizzard's had a ton of time to mess it up in true Blizzard fashion.
But the thing is that they must have been trying to accomplish something ultimately.
I can't for the life of me think of what it could be. I just don't know. I haven't paid that much attention to the game's dev cycle. I'm sure you could probably dig through. Well, it'd be a monumental task, but you could find the sources that caused all these changes. But it's a Blizzard game, so people talked about it to death. So you'll have to dig through 500 conversations on Reddits and forums about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I'm curious. I'm not desperate to know. Like, it has this sort of feeling of like, oh, nobody plays this MMO anymore, so we'll make it go free to play before we sunset it, sort of thing. Like, is that what's going on?
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know.
It's really dumb, and it makes me mad. There's no reason that this couldn't have been a great game. There's no reason why I couldn't enjoy it, except that they had to go and twiddle with the numbers until it didn't make sense. And I don't know. I'm viscerally inclined, due to our past remonstrations, that to blame everything on the real money auctions. Ultimately,
it kind of is the real money auction house's fault, because when they realized it was a problem and took it out, that's what made them increase the drop rates. The drop rates were always higher on PS3 and PS4 anyway, but making it go sky high after they kicked the real world auction house out of the way was what caused the influx of everybody has a billion pieces of 300% damage gear. Like, you get a piece of gear that says your main skill does 350% more damage, and whatever challenge that mob was going to have before is gone. If you're not playing on some difficulty that jacks its health up to match. And when the real life auction house went poof, that's exactly what happened. When that gear gets showered on you, you're going to find one piece that boosts your main damage ability by 350+% and gives you ludicrous base stats. Because for some reason, they decided to do additive scaling with all their crap. So each point in gear makes you scale really, really high when you take that additive scaling and multiply it by whatever the multipliers for the particular ability are.
Oh, boy.
The thing which makes this all the more egregious is that they have so much experience with Diablo 2 and with WoW that they should know the sort of danger that additive scaling represents. Because numbers just get massively out of hand. Like, I got one piece of gear which bumped me from doing 10k damage to 70k damage of my ability.
Yep.
No joy.
Like, that meant I went from one-shotting everything that I hit to, one-shotting everything 7 times over with everything that I hit. But you know what I mean? Like, these numbers are insane. It meant that I could one-shot bosses.
Mm.
Yes. For those that have not taken a statistics class, additive scaling is when two numbers that are less than 1 add together instead of multiply together. Kind of. It's a little more complicated than that. But the gist of the matter is numbers will keep getting bigger and get exponentially bigger when you multiply them by whatever coefficient the actual output uses.
Well, it's because when you do it additively, you've got, like, let's say you've got an ability that increases your skill by 10% and an ability that increases your skill by 20%. Well, if you apply them multiplicatively, then you have 1.2 times 1.1, and so the number will be bigger, but it won't be 2.3.
They won't stack perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't stack perfectly, but in Diablo they do stack like that. So you wind up.
That's dangerous. Like, you can make it work if all of your numbers are really small to begin with, but when you're working with thousands and thousands, things get out of hand extraordinarily.
You're capped at about 75 is the biggest number I would allow anything to use additive scaling on for a video game. If any stat ever could cap out over 75, I wouldn't do it.
Well, I mean, you can use, as an example, tabletop, right? Because tabletop almost always uses additive scaling so that you don't have to play the games with a calculator. And you can see what people can do to break tabletop games. It's not uncommon at all.
And those numbers usually cap out at 20. Yeah.
From a design perspective, additive scaling is kryptonite. You really, really can't take that risk. Especially if you expect your game to have a long lifespan, because you're going to have to keep increasing the power.
Yeah, it leads to these just out of control plateaus or gear breakpoints where you get that weapon that has the damage on it and has the right multipliers on it, and you're like, yes! And you just start doing 50 bajillion damage instead of you let, like, whatever, 10 bajillion or whatever you were at before. Like, just one piece of gear being able to make you do 500% more damage is just stupid. It should not be that bad.
This has been a lengthy tangent.
Yes, it has.
Most people have got the idea now that Blizzard have dropped the ball, as they are so fond of doing, in a pretty hefty fashion. And I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I mean, I'm disappointed, obviously. I just don't know how I feel about actually continuing to play the game. Like, it went from, initially I was thinking, oh, well, Diablo 3 is another game that I can play, to Diablo 3 is time that I'm not spending playing Monster Hunter. Like, the Monster Hunter exists, and that makes Diablo 3 even worse. So
I would recommend you finish the act you're in and just don't kill the next boss immediately, and look at some of his mechanics as the fight goes on to see what you're missing and what was there, and get an idea for what you could look forward to if you really decide to chew through the whole game to get to the next difficulty level. And then you can make a pretty good decision, I think. Because the next boss is my favorite boss, and he has by far the most mechanics aside from Diablo himself.
The other thing that I would like to say about it is that the game is a carbon copy of Diablo 2, so I don't understand why they managed to screw it up so badly. Like, I'm astonished that nobody seemed to talk about this when it came out.
The swamp is in Act 5 this time.
Copy. Pardon? What did you say?
Swamp's in in the expansion pack this time. The mountain's Act 3. They trade places.
Yeah, like regardless, like, this game is a carbon copy down to the last detail. Like, I don't understand why this is not mentioned more. Like you spend the entire first act mucking about around Tristram, invading the same monastery, and, you know, farting about with the same skeletons and all that kind of thing in an area with the same palette. You kill the same goat men. You do all the exact same things you did in Act 1 of Diablo 2, pretty much. Then in Act 2, what are you? Oh, you're in the desert. So now you wander around the desert, and when you're done wandering around the desert, you wander around in the sewers under the desert, and when you're done wandering around in the sewers under the desert, you then wander around the crazy super mage sanctum area, killing all weird crap that lives in there. Like, all in the name of, you know, accessing some ancient mummy's body. Like, this is still Diablo 2 again.
It's even worse when you see the final boss of Act 2 and what he looks like, what Belial's real form looks like. He looks like a big bug.
So he's like what Duriel turns into if
he's like Duriel. Like, if Duriel and Ragnaros did a DNA digivolution, that would come out. That's what happens.
It's just... Well, that's so unimaginative. So staggeringly unimaginative.
Yeah.
Like,
but-
and what's more, everybody hated the desert. Well, I don't know anybody who liked the desert, say, in Diablo 2. And what are we going to do for Act 2? We'll send everybody back to the desert.
Yeah, Act 2 in Diablo 3 is much the same, except you actually have a good boss to look forward to at the end instead of a meat wall that hits like a Mack truck with ice damage everywhere that you can't do anything about. I hated everything about Act 2 in Diablo 2. I especially hated the last boss.
Well, the thing is that the Diablo 2's desert was particularly horrible because they had a large number of types of bugs that constitutively always had lightning enchanted.
Yes.
On all the normal mobs. Not just on rares or elites, on regular mobs. All the regular mobs had lightning enchanted.
Yeah.
You used to be able to crash a computer back then by simply hitting a lot of them. If you were really game, you would play a charged bolt sorcerer, and then you'd spam charge bolts into the crowds of scarabs that would then shoot charge bolts back at you for every one that one of your charge bolts hit. So it would be multiplicative. So you would fire at max level charge bolts. I think they fired 10 bolts, and each of those bolts would hit a bug, and then each of those would spawn a whole pile of bolts that shot in all directions. Yeah. Messy.
Yeah.
Nobody likes
Sounds like a
that act
familiar
as the
thing.
short version. But
And then you got stuck on Duriel forever because he hits like a Mack truck.
oh my
And-
goodness, like that we were stuck on him for so staggeringly long in our first playthrough of the game because I feel like I had the most ideal early experience with Diablo 2. Like Diablo 2 was already old, but I didn't know what it was really. I played Diablo 1 demo. That was my total experience with the game. And we were at a LAN party, and we were like, what can we play co-op? And one of the guys was like, oh, Diablo 2's pretty cool. I've played a little bit of it. We should try that out. So we basically picked a random character, made random builds, and basically blundered our way through. And hitting Duriel was like throwing marshmallows at a concrete wall. My goodness. We got in there and was like, why do we move so slowly?
Whoever decided to put that boss in Isora on top of his truck style damage is an absolute sadist.
Like I think we eventually brought him down through sheer weight of Graveyard Zerg. Nobody had any gold left after.
I don't remember. I can't think of anybody I know that their first time through that act did not have to Graveyard Zerg Duriel, solo or otherwise.
He moves so fast.
And
You
he
can't
hits
run
so
away
hard.
from him. There is nothing that you can farm up in the early part of the game that will allow you to get away from Duriel if he wants to catch you.
If you do not know he's coming and know what all the stats do, there's no way to prepare for the big Duriel wall coming. You're going to get your butt kicked.
The first time I fought him, by the end of the fight, I wasn't sure what he looked like because he was on the screen for such a small amount of time before it went black. It was just But that's what, to me, in a sense, that's what a Diablo boss should be. Terrifying
Yeah.
and vicious. Not
And
something that I can tread on in 6 seconds.
Yeah, originally the boss in Act 2 right now that you're about to come up on is like Duriel, but not BS. Like, he doesn't have a chill aura or anything stupid, but he has a lot of really big, huge, high damage area of effect attacks and a lot of specific ways you have to handle mechanics without changing how you really play. You just have to get creative with your movement. And it was a good boss, genuinely speaking. Belial is the best boss in the game, period. And in going through Act 2 in Diablo 3 is, we got to go through the desert and go past Zoltan Ghoul and all that's really boring. But we get to fight Belial at the end of it, and that's fun. And then
I don't think
nowadays
that peaking at Act 2 is necessarily a good thing.
No, I would say not.
the last boss fight with Diablo himself is pretty good too, but it's just Belial is so much better. Like they actually struck gold with that boss fight when it was, actually able to kill you. Because all this big AoE crap would kill you if you couldn't find a way to get out of it. And they just do it without putting a gimmick on the boss, which was really, really, that's rare to see with Blizzard. Making a genuinely difficult boss that's fun to fight that doesn't have some kind of gimmick tied to it. So people were really impressed with that boss fight when it came out. It was my favorite boss fight anyway. So I recommend you at least try and see that fight and experience it. You won't be able to get it like we got it, period. It's not happening. But you could poke at the fight and try and kill him slowly to see the phases and what he does. Yeah. And you can see what the game peaks at, and you can decide pretty quickly from there whether you want to keep going.
I think that I'll probably take a break for a little bit. I mean, the thing is, my free time is limited. Spending my free time playing a game that is bad does not really seem like a good investment unless that game is Neptunia. Like I suppose part of the problem is that I am still having a great time with Monster.
Yeah,
like that game has got legs for days.
As do some of the monsters.
So I don't know. Are there any big centipede monsters? But
no. Now that I think of it,
if not, then they need to fix that. But yeah, the fact that Monster Hunter is great sort of takes away from my willingness to play Diablo because I'm still having time playing. Although I still haven't worked out how I'm supposed to get tempered fights. Like I'm sure I can find a YouTube video on it online, but it sort of frustrates me that I haven't been able to do it.
RNG, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Although it's supposed to reach a point where you've encountered enough tempered tracks that you could go do a tempered fight and unlock more tempered fights as you go. That's how it's supposed to go.
I've been doing tempered fight after tempered fight after tempered fight, and I still haven't managed to get any more.
Yeah.
I found a way to bump up to the next tier, so I'm just getting the same garbage jewels over and over again. I don't really understand how this works, which is basically the way you respond to every mechanic. I don't really understand how it works. But, yeah. So that's what I'm playing today, because, frankly, I played Diablo yesterday and I had my fill of it. I think I need to put it on hiatus for a few days at least. But, yeah, maybe I'll push through to see how Belial is. But writing-wise, my goodness, Belial's a horrible villain. Like,
yeah,
he's Snidely Whiplash.
Yeah,
he's literally Snidely Whiplash.
Is that without the ironic charm?
The only thing that he ever does is, like, the only contact you have with him is you find his missives lying around the place where he's basically berating his incompetent minions for not doing their jobs. So he ends up being a comic character in Diablo. There aren't comic characters in Diablo. That's not how it works. It's supposed to be dark and gothic. It's not supposed to have Snidely Whiplash in it. So... yeah,
what do you mean, Volcel? What's her nuts is totally a good guy, and you're supposed to trust her. There's no way she's gonna backstab you at some point.
Yeah, she doesn't act like a psychopathic extremist. No, she only wants us to resurrect an evil sorcerer so that she can steal the souls of all the evils in the world. Like, she effectively wants to create the Black Grail. This is not the action of a good person.
Nope. Really, just why?
Everything about the writing is just incompetent. The only thing that is incompetent as Belial's minions is the people that write Belial.
It's like, oh dear. It's even worse when you think about how your character comes off in their personal interactions with their companion and on their own as being fairly savvy, and they just totally go along with this. They're like, yeah, that's cool. Makes sense to me.
There's absolutely no way the Crusader, as depicted up till that point, would listen to that crap.
Yeah, it's the same way for all the classes. None of them would, but they totally do.
Yeah, well, I've only played the Crusader, obviously, since I'm on my first playthrough, and that's been, my Crusader, I've come to be very fond of her. She has a very pragmatic approach to everything, which is to put a mace squarely in the face of whatever is offending her, as her primary response to everything is to crusade its face off. And, she's just going along with this bizarre magical bullcrap. And it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, when you're chasing down the witch Magda, and the enchantress is like, so what are you going to do when you find Magda in the end? He's like, I'm going to kill her. And then I'm going to find her boss Belial, and then I'm going to kill him. And then I'm going to find her boss's brother, Asmodan, and kill him. Like, she never talks about fighting the enemies or defeating the enemies or ending evil in the world or anything like that. No, I'm going to kill this person, and I'm going to kill this person, and I'm going to kill this person, and then things will be good and crusaded. Like, this is a very pragmatic approach to the world. And yet, instead of taking the pragmatic approach and putting her mace upside Belial's face, she mucks around looking for the Black Grail. Like, why would you do this? Doesn't make sense.
Gotta get them escort mission points or whatever. Gotta run the head around everywhere. Gotta get your cred with the head.
He's not as funny as Murray, and therefore it is a failure.
Yes.
If I'm going to carry a head around in my backpack, he better be a comic skull.
Yes. There are no superior severed heads in Murray. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I've honestly forgotten every single thing Zoltan Kuhl says.
But he does a maniacal villain laugh every time he disappears, like a really loud, cackly one.
Oh dear!
At what point could you ever conclude this guy isn't immediately going to betray you?
I probably farmed that boss like 60 or so kills and don't even know what he looks like. I forgot.
Well, he just looks like a dude with a stick.
Just a dude with a stick?
Yeah.
He didn't have an interesting design or anything.
Yeah, he's the most forgettable dude you've ever met in your life.
Right, yeah. So that's Diablo 3. I was unimpressed. Distinctly unimpressed. What else did I do this week? Not very much. What anime have I watched? I haven't watched that much this week. Most things are more or less running in their groove. Another horse girl broke her leg, which is always amuses me because I'm like, where's the guy with the shotgun?
Yeah, that anime is just completely baffling. Mind you, I did find myself getting good and angry at this episode of My Hero Academia. It's like, Araka, you had this chance. You could have taken this girl out of the fight entirely because that's what your power does. Why did you not?
Well, I think that the story was focused on showing the stuff that she learned from her internship.
It was, but if she'd learned anything from her internship, she would have floated that psycho killer up into the sky and left her there.
Yeah, I think that there must be constraints on her abilities that aren't explicitly described in very good detail, because there are a lot of things she could do that she never does.
Yeah.
I think that you could probably spin an arc off of that, like that she's reluctant to use her abilities for certain things because of some character flaw. Like, it is very rare for her to aggressively just float somebody.
Yeah. Even though that's the most efficient way of taking out any physically based fighter, but whatever.
Well, they also it sounds like it's drummed into their heads as students that if you don't know what their quirk is, don't take any risks.
Yeah, that is actually there.
Putting somebody out of your range when you have, when you don't know what they can do, is not necessarily a good thing. Like, once something is floating, it just behaves in accordance with its momentum.
Yep.
So yeah, that may or may not be a good thing,
depending on who you're fighting against.
It's sort of hard to say. Like, I'm not trying to defend it or fan wank it too hard, but I think that as far as shonen sins go, that one's pretty small.
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, so far this season, like, My Hero Academia has been the best of all shonen sort of thing. Like, all of the things that shonen does well are done perfectly to a T.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a joy to watch, generally speaking, every time.
Yep. So everything's gone horrible in the series, as you might have expected was coming. So yeah, it's become really fun to watch.
Pretty much everybody's being beat to a pulp.
Oh my, yes. Especially Deku.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of his thing, really.
Yeah, he does more damage to himself than anyone else half the time.
It reminds me of Harry Dresden. The guy comes out with broken bones and battered body limbs every shows up in a big fight. But
Dresden at least doesn't blow up his own limbs often.
Well, I mean, he just sort of, hacks pieces off his soul and uses it to see fight.
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
It's just the way Butcher describes poor Harry is he's always beat the hell and back again.
Oh, you read some of the commentaries Butcher's put out about the writing process, and he says he sits there in his chair at his desk, cackling in glee at some of the stuff he writes. just to torture Harry.
What can I do to Harry today?
Yes.
That's an actual quote from Jim, I'm pretty sure.
Also, while we're on the topic, Jim, write faster, damn it.
Yeah, I'm crawling my way through Cold Days at the moment since it finally arrived, and I started reading it. I haven't got a lot of time to read, but I've been gradually processing through it, and I had a bit of a whinge to Fern.
You did, and I was sitting at my desk biting my finger saying, oh, I can't talk about that because spoilers.
It's just, I haven't made it to the point where I feel like their presence in the story is redeemed in any particularly thorough way. But I'm a bit, I feel like there's a bit of a monomaniacal focus on what I think of as Fae bullshit.
Yeah.
Because that basically appears to comprise the story. Like,
it's the running theme of this book, yeah.
I've seen things in the story now so far, as I've read, which sort of, they give a more direct purpose to the Fae in general terms, but that doesn't change the fact that the Fae are an eminently abusable plot device that have been ruthlessly abused.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically, like, I feel like the Fae is like the gold ticket to put arbitrary twists in a story. Because, they're never quite telling the truth. They're always telling the strict, lawyerly truth, but they're never telling the truth.
Yeah.
You
can...
Spoilers.
Yeah, I know, spoilers, but... Spoilers, big spoilers. But, yeah, that's a restriction on the Fae, is they cannot tell a direct lie, but...
Well, it's not even a restriction. It's supposed to just part of their makeup.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. But that's...
But the fact... I'm not talking about what they are. I'm talking about what the writer does with them. And what the writer does with them is use them as an excuse, relentlessly. Like, because everybody is a bad guy, in theory. And the thing is that when too many of the characters end up being Fae, I can't just take the story as it comes. Because you have to turn everything over in your brain to see if it's bull or not.
Yeah, figure out the ulterior motive.
If everybody has an ulterior motive, or seven, like all the time forever, it's just it gets a little bit tiresome.
Mav has at least 26.
There's one point in that book, we'll have to talk about this when you get to it, where some of this stuff is addressed, we'll say.
Directly.
Very directly.
Yeah. But in the meantime, spoilers, so we will shut our traps.
Where I'm up to presently, if I can recall, I had a lot to drink when I did the last chapter. He goes and he talks with Rashid at the gate.
Okay, so you've uncovered one of the big things.
Okay, so you've got the lampshading moment.
Yep.
Yeah. But, that's where I'm up to. I'm going to continue reading, of course, but yeah, that's where I'm up to with that. Yeah, what else did I read? I have Skin Game ready, so
yes.
I'll be able to go straight onto that one.
And then, unfortunately, you don't need to suffer through... How many years has it been now? 4?
I don't know. I picked the series up about a year after Skin Game, and it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah. I picked up Skin Game at launch, and...
Has it pitched a release time?
No.
Sometime late this year, supposedly, but he said that every year. So we're for sure he's getting the short story compilation sometime in my summer, y'all's winter.
Yeah, so that's coming up in mid-June, I believe.
Like, the publisher actually has that one. So that's done. It's just getting ready for the launch.
At least it's not like George R.R. Martin, who actually went off and wrote an entire other book.
Yes.
Oh, he's done that before. He actually did that at the end of Skin Game.
He did.
The thing is that in the case of the other books that Butcher writes, they are usually like other series that he does.
Mm.
In the case of George R.R. Martin, he just writes another book that's about the stuff that he's writing. It's just the stuff that people want to see. Because the book that he wrote was it's a historical tale of the setting for whatever the setting is actually called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So rather than writing the specific material people wanted, he went and just wrote backstory.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rothfuss is the same. We just want to see the end of the trilogy, but he went off and wrote a a story, granted about a fan favorite character who didn't get a whole lot of exposition, but still.
I can't bring myself to read the most recently released Game of Thrones book because I know the series is never going to finish. It's just not.
I've never cared about Game of Thrones, and that's a part of it.
I've never read any of them, and I don't really feel the need to. I don't really like dark fiction very much. And the only thing that's worse than dark fiction is fiction that is pretending it being dark by just being
edgy,
sensationalist, which is basically what his work seems like.
It's definitely on extreme ends of some things, just to be shocking. And that's why I don't like the series very much in general.
There seems to be a couple of characters in that series that exist specifically for that reason.
Yeah, from what I've heard, he wants to be, Tolkien, except he dresses all in black and smokes outside the back of the school, sort of thing, bike racks or whatever. Like he's just trying to be. He dislikes the heroism of Tolkien and wants to tear it all down. Like he's trying to write a deconstruction, but he's just basically writing a blood orgy.
Yeah, he's trying to be like what South Park was to comedy to high fantasy, but it's just not.
Nah.
His fantasy's not very high, is it? Like, is he like magic and stuff?
There
kind of is.
I don't know. I stopped watching the show.
There's magic zombies. Magic
Smoke Monster.
There's also Magic Smoke Monster.
Like, there's some kind of magic.
From that, what should we call it? Lost?
That made no sense.
Like
nothing in it does, but they didn't know what it meant either, so...
Yeah, we don't even know with him anymore in that universe. I just don't care because they're not willing to progress the universe. They're not willing to do anything with it, so it's not even worth getting involved in.
Yeah.
That and the fans are absolute cancer.
Oh my yes.
Like
anyway, so rather than getting involved in another conversation about Game of Thrones when none of us really care about it, it doesn't seem like a really good approach. So I'll just try and finish off my week because I need the bathroom really badly.
we're still on your week, right?
So I'm reading Cold Days. Cold Days followed on the end of me reading the last 2 English books that have been translated in Irregular at Magic High School. The writer has gotten gradually, like at snail's pace, but definitely better over time about not repeating his exposition 5 times in the same book.
Like Dragon Ball or Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, before it was sort of like that. Yeah, like they would explain, every time something came up, they would explain it again. But he's down to now only explaining things twice, which over the course of 7 books is progress definitely, but not as fast as I'd like.
The broadcast tell you that fire is weak to water. He has to make sure Misty knows every single time it happens.
Oh boy!
It's not like Misty's a gym leader or anything.
Yeah, it's not her job to know this.
Yeah, but so that last book that I finished takes the story up to where has been animated, excluding the movie. I don't know if the movie tells the story from a book or not, and I haven't watched.
Right,
but yeah, it's sort of interesting to see how much different Tatsuya's character is in the books compared to on the anime, simply because in the anime you can't see his interior monologue and you can't see any of the narration. Like, the thing is that Tatsuya is a blatant Super Mary Sue in the anime. And in the book, he's still a Mary Sue because he's the main character in a light novel. But he's not as bad because where he looks like he's too suave in the anime, he's not suave at all in the book because you can see what's going on in his head. And most of the time, he blows up a situation by accident because he's got so little social skill, as you can see through the narration, which you can't see on the in the anime, that he can't read a situation at all when it comes to social matters.
Oh dear.
And so he just says the first thing that pops into his head. And sometimes it's suave, and sometimes it's basically pouring fuel on the fire and whatever. He looks like a cunning social manipulator in the anime because you can't see that. But he basically tries things at random in the book. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Like where he seems to be like James Bond flirting with all the ladies in the anime, he's usually just saying the first thing that pops into his head in the book, and then face palming when he realizes he's caused the situation to deteriorate, either because the girl's blushing now or because the girl wants to hit him now.
Right.
But yeah, so the inner monologue is quite interesting, and he's got sort of a bit of a nasty sense of humor for a person who, you know, essentially has no emotions, because they were surgically removed from him, literally. But he will oftentimes, when people in his peer group are gossiping about somebody, like what happens in the anime is that Erica decides she's going to train Leo in one of her family's techniques so that they can be effective bodyguards during the thesis competition. Tatsuya immediately goes out of his way to reframe that as something salacious very carefully, so that everybody gets on their case about it. So he has these sort of like occasions of successful social manipulation, but he usually uses them for malevolent reasons.
Oh dear.
Which is also something that's not perfectly communicated by the anime either, is that he basically trolls people.
It's really hard to write a good heroic sociopath. Like, I can think of 2 ever that I've ever liked and thought were done well.
Well, I mean,
and one of them is in Worm, and that doesn't count.
He's a heroic sociopath, but he's basically joined at the hip with a morality pet. So you can get around a lot of that stuff that way, because, oh, well, it would make my sister sad, so I won't do it, is like his primary motivation for not just killing anybody who inconveniences him. So, yeah.
Oh, right. That's why I dropped that show. It had the incest squick in it.
Yeah.
Of course.
I knew there was a reason I didn't keep watching it.
Yeah, and the book continually lampshades that as well. Like, the book does not shy away from being squicky about it, but the book also makes everybody else, like everybody within range, squicked out by it. Like there is nobody who applauds it. Everybody thinks it's creepy.
Good. That's how it should be.
It should be. In Danganronpa, they kill that person. That is the appropriate solution.
Well, and also the lead character doesn't understand that he's squicky because he doesn't understand anything is going on, because he can't read social cues at all, including his own sister.
Like, I can't read my sister's social cues either, but
at the point when she's getting too affectionate and she takes off once she realizes that she is, like, he thinks that he must have worried her because he was feeling sleepy that day or something like that. Like, that's the conclusion that he draws. But he draws the wrong conclusion every time about that kind of stuff.
Oh dear.
But he's also a shonen protagonist, so he has to be romance dumb. It's sort of like obligatory.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that series is slowly coming back to my head, where I thought some things looked interesting, but it immediately got written off because of incest squick.
Yeah, I don't have a sister, so it's perfectly fine for me. Like, it's something that is intellectually squicky as opposed to viscerally squicky.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, so I'll leave my week there because I need to go to the bathroom.
Right, well,
Okay.
we should take a break then.
Tell me we're at time for a break.
We are certainly.
We're 30 minutes late. Okay, we'll be back after some music, folks. See you in a bit. And we're back.
Yes, indeed.
And we're coming up on 2 hours, so...
Yeah. We're just, talking
Man,
Dresden
this
Files.
is-
for a while.
This is the tangentiest show we've done in a long time.
I don't know. We've done some tangent ones.
Well, the range is not very long, but the depth is pretty deep.
Yeah. Oh boy,
So, yeah,
oh boy.
do you have anything else in your week, Paul?
Not really. I don't think. I mean, I have kept watching the Persona 5 anime, but it's just
I gave up on it because it's just so meh. Meh is the best
That's
description
pretty
for
much-
it.
That's pretty much it, really. I don't know if they'll manage to pull something dramatic at some point, which would be like really cool. But honestly, they're really screwing the pooch with the storytelling, just through the sheer amount of like conspicuous attention that they give to the detective kid. What's his name? Like that's
Akechi?
they're
Yeah.
not
Douchey.
they're not subtle at all. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They practically play ominous music in the background when he's on the screen. Like the foreshadowing is too blunt.
Pancakes
but,
was more than enough already.
Pancakes was pretty blatant.
But yeah, the what else was there? I'm sort of a bit irked at Full Metal Panic because they've already. I haven't watched the latest episode because the latest episode's description says that it's a summary episode,
That's a lie.
and only on episode have only done like 4 other episodes.
Why would you do this?
So
Maybe
I
they're
don't
trying
know.
to. Maybe
A
they're
lot
trying to
has
get
happened.
people caught up.
I think a lot has happened. I think most likely the reason is because Full Metal Panic is so old.
Yeah, that's what
So
I'm
they might
thinking.
take a bit of extra narrative time out to elaborate on some things, maybe. Possible.
It probably has new people poking at it that haven't watched Full Metal Panic before, so they're trying to clarify some things in the universe.
Yeah, it is pretty old. As much as I don't like to acknowledge that.
I was around too when it was not old.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Get off my
dear.
lawn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially get off my lawn after I burned myself cutting it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you gotta stop doing that.
Ah,
Yeah, you get skin cancer.
What the?
So yeah, what else, Paul?
There was something. I'm just trying to remember what it was. But it's probably not important. Otherwise, I would have remembered it a bit better. So I'll just leave it there.
All right,
Ah.
we'll do it next week if you remember it, or we'll tangent into it inevitably, like we always do. So, okay. So in the interest of being quick, my week thankfully didn't have that much. I'm in the middle of a 2-month-long. I gotta get stuff done. I just haven't had a lot of time for anything. Although at work, I did finally talk them into replacing my work computer for me.
Oh, okay.
Something unnecessary.
Is it something better than Windows 95, I hope?
Oh yes, the old one was running Windows 10, but it was upgraded from Windows XP. Like the thing was getting like I could hear the parts whining.
Yeah.
It was that case was dying. I already had it on life support with junk from my parts box, keeping it alive. But yeah, finally talked him into replacing that, and that came in today, so it's sitting still in the box somewhere. I don't have to do anything to it. It's just a pre-built box from Amazon that was on sale that's got good enough specs to work for a work computer. But I managed to talk them into a rather obscene budget for it, like
See?
$800.
So you can get something
See,
halfway
the thing-
decent?
Well,
Yeah,
the thing
like-
is, old people remember the day. I guess that makes us old people, but old people remember the days when the budget required to purchase a PC was about $3,000.
Yes.
Yeah. And I work exclusively with people over the age of 50. So, all
By
of this-
comparison, $800 seems like a bargain, really.
yeah. So I got this thing on the cheap for what it was. It's got a 1060 card in it, just out of the box. Like for the equivalent of a big box store brand pre-built box, it's a really good box. So yeah, I'll actually have a real computer at work, and I can actually customize my desk space with a second monitor or something. Run more than one application at a time. Right now, like, I can pull up Chrome and have one window open in it, and if I open a second one, God help me.
Oh dear, it's that bad.
It's gonna take like a full minute to figure out what it's doing, and except that I have two windows open.
Well, Chrome is a total memory whore.
It is.
Yeah. But
like, you're asking for trouble just by using Chrome to begin with.
I have Firefox on there as well, but I haven't installed.
Firefox is just as bad.
Yeah.
They keep adding useless features. Stop it.
They keep changing things to change them in general.
That's why I don't use Firefox anymore. Is it just they change stuff just to change it?
It's like YouTube.
Yeah, like, I don't like the change it just because mentality. Like, yeah. At least with Chrome, you can get in there and pull out the garbage and get most of it turned off. But Firefox just, it's a constant memory hog. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. I gotta set that up and get ready to do some more stuff at work, but that's work. So that was interesting that I managed to quite easily talk them into an $800 budget for a work PC.
Yeah, it is.
That was my starting point, and I expected to have to haggle down to like 400, but no, they just took it. They're like, yeah, that's fine.
You realize that you're supposed to be trying to pull them out of a financial hole, not put them in a deeper one, right?
I can see the books, so they can take it right now. We just got a sale in finally. I haven't had a paycheck that I've had to delay. We finally got all that sorted. That, and now that I have to run the billing software too at work, trying to run the billing software and do something on like either the internet or on WordPad is a nightmare on that thing.
Yeah,
that I use right now.
It can't even handle WordPad.
Yeah, it can't handle WordPad and the MYOB billing software we use. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yikes!
Switching between the windows takes like 20 seconds. It's like, it's so inefficient. I try to do as much work at home as I can in my home office, or at the other office, which is I call the home office for work, which is next door. I do not ever want to go into the main office because my computer there is so terrible, but that is getting fixed soon, so I'm happy about that. That should, in theory, let me get out of there a little bit sooner most days, just because I won't waste so much time waiting on stuff to load.
You don't need a 1060 for banking software.
No.
Yeah, it's overkill would be short selling it. It's way more than you need to do work. That thing could play most modern video games. So yeah, that's the thing that happened. What else? So as I've been at work, the 3DS I've repaired, I'm still trying to chew through everything with this thing, so I never have to touch it again. And the last thing I want to play for it is coming out on Tuesday, and that's the Strange Journey remake for Shin Megami Tensei. So I'm still in the depths of my SMT thing that's going on right now, where I just am into the universe. Is, plural. So, yeah, I finished Apocalypse, finally, and got the 100% on the compendium. So, there's a little sticky star next to my profile that says I did it. Yay.
Yay.
Got a little title for it. Yeah, so my final opinions of Apocalypse are up until, if you do not go for the compendium completion, like an insane person, and you ignore the very last dungeon in its entirety, it's a great game. But those two things, if you are a completionist and want to go for 100% in the compendium, it's going to absolutely kill you if you don't have, a way to sit it beside you while you work and mash the A button and the reload button over and over again to get the famed fusions and whatever, and the zealot races or whatever other races are fusion accident exclusive. You're just going to kill yourself doing it. It's a nightmare. I had it sitting beside me for a full day at work, and that was barely enough time to get most of them. So, yeah.
Don't know who thought it was a good idea to have a set of races exclusive to fusion accidents. Like, ugh.
Yeah. The game is unfortunately really easy, especially for an SMT game. I played it on War difficulty 4 out of 5. And that was, aside from the two bosses I'll talk about at the end of this discussion about the game, that was not enough. And going up to the hate yourself difficulty is not something I wanted to do because it has two features that most SMT games do that just make it not so much hard as really, really obnoxious and force you to reload a lot of the time. The first thing it has is the standard, highest difficulty has jacked up prices on everything. And
that's not real difficulty. There's no way to construct.
That's just annoying and grindy.
Yeah, it's just more grinding you have to do. And Maka's already scarce in the SMT to come by. Period. Monsters don't drop it at all. You get no Maka rewards from monsters. The only way to get Maka is to sell items that the monsters drop, or to run around and collect what are called relics, which are just trash left around after the apocalypse that can still be salvaged. And these relics spawn at preset locations that are marked on your map, but they respawn like once every hour of playtime.
Ugh.
So you can't like extort monsters or anything?
You can, but it's not until late in the game when you get enough points in the fundraise skill where binding a monster and stealing all the money from its pockets is a good idea. That's really late in the game. Like, you're well into post-game by the time you bought that app. So the way that this game handles a lot of the quality of life stuff, like making mana management or MP management easier outside of combat and stuff, and just working your way to bosses, is through a system called the app system, where your phone or Gauntlet in the games has a feature in it that has apps on it. And these apps are things like every few steps you walk, you regenerate some mana if you buy it, and you get 10 app points per level. And these apps cost not a small amount. They cost about 50 or more a piece. And then some of the better ones, like your whole party gets the mana bonus, is like 65 with 2 pre-purchases of 50 points in front of it. It takes forever to get to. And you're level capped at 99 unless you buy the cheater DLC that breaks the level cap. Actually, I think that one's free. You can break it for free, but you have to download it and break it. But yeah, if you don't get the cheater DLC, you have 999 nat points to spend, and that is not enough to get it all in one playthrough.
I think that I'd be perfectly okay with the cheater.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, and thankfully the cheater DLC isn't that bad. If you are going to play the game, though, I recommend you do not break it until you feel you need to. Just play through the game without it on as long as you can. And then once things start getting out of hand and you run into the super bosses or whatever, then buy the cheater DLC and break it. Like, there is a point doing the post-game content, because it loops forever and the monsters will scale up infinitely every time you loop it, where you need to use the cheater DLC and break the level cap. So I think that one's one of the free ones. And for that reason. But yeah, Maka is stupid hard to come by. Eventually, and this was the best way in the first game as well, the best way to get money is to get any demon or yourself with a skill that inflicts bind, which is a debuff that's effectively paralysis. They can't take an action during their next turn. And you spam this on some high-level demon. And for every single demon in the game, they have unique dialogue for them using the fundraise option after you used a bind on them, because they can't move. And you're just robbing them. You're just going through their pockets, stealing everything they have. And every single demon has a unique option for it, even in SMT4. I was really surprised. They took the time to write out a unique dialogue for every single one. And you can rob anybody. You can rob like Harry Jack, who is a dog with no pockets. And you can just, it says you're rifling through his pockets, finding money. So that is the way you get that stuff at endgame. But to get the fundraise app to that point, you have to get the scout skill, all of its prerequisites ranked up, and they cost like 30 points each. So you're not doing, this is like a 40 level commitment to getting the fundraise thing. And, getting it to be actually usable. Otherwise, you're just robbing like 200 mock off somebody every time you use it and wasting one of your press turns. Like, so yeah, when you get it fully upgraded, though, you can rob them 3 times. You get a bonus rob each rob you do, and the robs scale up every time you rob somebody successfully. So if you bind them and you can take all 3 robs automatically because you just mugged the guy, it scales up pretty hard every time. And that makes it worth it. And that's how you make money late game if you don't use the cheater DLC. There is anti-grinding DLC. So if you really want to throw the $2 at it, that'll take you to Tir na Nog and you can go beat up Magatamas, and they'll drop things that sell for tens of thousands of Maka if you just want to skip that, which I was tempted to do. Really tempted to do. But I managed to restrain myself and just reload the saves instead and just not fuse stupidly with the compendium. But yeah, I probably would have caved if I switched the difficulty to Apocalypse, where the Maka value was just jacked up way too high. I did cheat a little bit, though. I did flip the game to Skirmish every time I went to buy something out of the compendium so that it was cheaper, because it does scale up for every difficulty level. It gets a percentage boost. So that's a problem. And because the relics only respawn every so many hours, you can't use them to farm reliably. You just remember to go back to Giza every hour or two to make sure that timer's always ticking. So that's like 40,000 Maka every hour, and you will need every drop of it. The other issue with Apocalypse mode is, in this game, remember, there is no defensive stats at all. The closest thing is the agility stat. And their idea of breaking the busted builds that just dump all their points into magic, strength, and dexterity, because that's the only thing that you can see make a meaningful difference, so it's the thing everybody does, is to put a passive minus 100 agility on you and your entire party permanently that you can't see or do anything about.
Yeah.
This would not be a problem if agility didn't affect your hit rate, and we were using the press turn system. So you are going to miss a lot, especially in the early game, until you get moves that are either guaranteed to hit or can guarantee a crit, which always hits, or can give you smirk, because you can manipulate it now in the sequel. So I elected not to do that and just went with the hardest setting that used the game's normal rules. But yeah, the game was still it was just a little bit too easy on that difficulty, though. It was just a little too easy to grind and fuse up things that were completely, at the very least, neutral to all elements. Covering resistances was really easy. I managed to get Drain whatever on whatever needed it to cover its weaknesses. Getting all the severe damage spells above the Dines on whatever I wanted was really easy. They're not locked to specific monsters except for the dark one that's locked to Alice. And just the base game, aside from the final boss, wasn't a challenge on this difficulty. And it wasn't a challenge last time either, but I was playing it on either Skirmish or Normal, which are easy and normal, because I was trying to get the game done as fast as possible. But I expected it to, put up a little bit of a fight, and it just kind of didn't for me. As somebody that understands the press turn system and has had a lot of practice with it, I played pretty much every game that has SMT but in the title. So the press turn system and its variants are something very familiar with, and it just did not give me what I wanted. And I get that Apocalypse is there for people like me to do that, but it's got so many obnoxious things tacked on, it just wasn't something I enjoyed. But aside from that, the game itself is fine. It even reuses some of the terrible maps from SMT4, most of them, but they're touched up, and certain areas of them are just closed off. Just don't go to this spot. We can't fix this part. Or they'll just
rubbish.
They'll just remove structures entirely that were just garbo. But so the areas are much more tolerable. They'll just remove random obstacles like the poison pools. They've done a whole lot of things to just, like I mentioned before, all the scrappy mechanics that got fixed. And yeah, it was a fairly enjoyable experience, except for going for the completionist aspect. If I wasn't going for that and the last dungeon didn't exist, I would say it's probably the best RPG on the 3DS without having played all of them. It was really good. The DLC and the super bosses is where the game finally started to bite back. So the first post-game content is the Twisted Tokyo content. And you have to get the free DLC to do this, I'm pretty sure. But this one's free. You don't have to pay for this one. And this has all the fiends in it, starting at level 95, I think. And they scale up from there. So you have David, Matador, the 4 Riders of the Apocalypse as their own fight each. Trumpeter, who you fight as a horde of 7 Trumpeters, which gave me a heart attack.
That's a lot of honking.
Nocturne. Yeah, I get why there's 7 Horatios, but I don't want to fight 7 Horatios at once. That was terrifying. But he's weak to guns, so that's a thing. But yeah, and then Mother Harlot, and then Indo Ozuma, who was like Steven's butt buddy from 1, apparently. We in the West have never had a game with Ozuma in it, so he's just a legacy dude. But they're all fairly interesting fights for the most part. The Fiends are a little underwhelming once you get their gimmick down, but Ozuma's a good fight. He's got a lot of unique mechanics to him where he will do stuff like whatever damage you do to him on certain turns, the first damage done will be reflected back to the whole party. Stuff like that you have to manage. So nothing too big or innovative, but a good post-game boss. And that DLC leads you into the proper pay-for-it DLC super bosses post-game, which really bugs me that the good super bosses are all post-game content. And only one of them was not available at launch. The first 2 were Mephisto and Cleopatra, which might as well have been launched. They were released like within months of the game coming out, by the time most people would get to post-game. And they're just funny scenes and a super boss. And the super bosses are a light and dark super boss, respectively, and they're not that hard, to be completely honest. Even on war difficulty, I sneezed on them and they fell over. One of the post-game DLCs that you also have to buy is Explosive Epidemic and Mikado, which is like you go to the samurai world and you have 25 turns to do like 7 fights. So it's not that hard. You just got to build a DPS team, which is not hard. Just stick dynes that hurt everything or the severe equivalents and then blow it up. You know, you'll die on it once because you won't know what the boss's weaknesses are, but after you learn them, you're like, oh, okay, I got it now. So that one wasn't very interesting, unfortunately. It had a bunch of fun lore implications for the universe, but it's just not very good gameplay-wise at all. It's total trash. Just watch it on YouTube. Don't bother buying that one. You don't even get a reward for that one. You at least get to fuse Mephisto and Cleopatra. And then the last one is the one that everybody talks about because this is where they put the for realsies super boss, which is Steven, who it is not my fault that he died while I was playing this game. I was going to 100% it whether he died or not. So his unfortunate timing of it being too soon, I don't want to hear. Which is something I noticed while I was playing. Like, you know, you didn't have to play through, dude. But yeah, I mentioned to somebody else, they're like, too soon. I'm like, it's not too soon. Oh dear. You don't even kill him. You have a friendly little duel with him. And yeah, Steven is actually a good boss. I don't know if he's worth $3, but that's a bit steep for a boss, but it's a good boss that's going to take you, it's going to take you about 5 hours of gameplay to learn the fight and fuse a team that can actually beat him.
It's just a bit off-putting that the ultimate boss of that game is named Steven.
Well, he's Stephen Hawking. He's that universe's Stephen Hawking, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a 2-phase fight. The first fight is a normal fight with him in his wheelchair, and he does not have any of the gimmicks like the Demi-Fiend in Digital Devil Saga or the Velvet Rim dudes from the Persona games. He doesn't have any of those. You can come at him with whatever moveset you want. He will not punish you or insta-jib you for it. Instead, he has really just a ton of crap you have to pay attention to. He has a lot of triggers in the way he does stuff. The first fight isn't that bad. It's just you have to do it really slowly and make sure you're buffed up to +3 on everything, and he's debuffed all the time. And he will constantly clear the buffs and stuff. Otherwise, he'll just blow you up because his spells hit really fracking hard. But you'll just barely survive if you can keep your buffs up and do damage like you expect of a super boss. Phase 2 starts once he takes a certain amount of damage with no time to get your MP back or to heal. So you have to get that phase transition just right. But thankfully, you can tell when a boss is below 10% because they'll turn red when you target them. So you can tell when it's coming at least.
That's
so you
useful.
get yourself prepped up. Yeah, you get yourself prepped up for phase 2, and 4 press turns are barely enough to keep up with everything you have to do every single turn. First off, you can't not do damage a turn. You have to at least do an attack on him. Otherwise, he will, on his next turn, do a move that will insta-kill somebody. Period. It does in the 9 digits of damage. He will use this move consistently as his first move if you have not done any damage the previous turn. So you have to be sure you weave in some damage somewhere. Second, he is resistant to everything at the start of the fight. We'll get to how you fix that later. Third, his debuffing power goes from being able to fully buff himself, give him smirk, debuff you to -3 on everything, and make it so one of your attacks is guaranteed to miss. Yeah. And that's a whole party hit. So you have to deal with all this crap, and that means you have to get rid of his smirk, get rid of his debuffs, get rid of his buffs, get rid of your debuffs, and do damage to him in one turn. You've got 4 press turns to do this. And you can make it 8. That's effectively 8 actions if you're able to hit a weakness, which you're not, because he starts off resistant to everything. And it's just a lot of stuff to juggle while you're trying to do him. And if you forget one thing one time, that's it. It's game over. Because the other mechanic in this fight is the protagonists from all the numbered SMT games fight alongside you as a separate party, where they each are treated as their own character. They don't have their demons with them. So you have... The way it works is the protags from the first 2 games each have an ability that, when you hit him, reduces one of his resistances by 1 level. So if you hit him and they happen to randomly reduce the same one twice at some point, anytime in the fight, he becomes weak to an element finally, and you can finally get press turns. But until that breakpoint happens, you're rolling the dice on whether you're going to get past it. And it takes a while to get to the second phase to begin with. The dude has like 100,000 HP. And you have to keep, and if that party goes down, most of your damage goes down too, because the guy has 100,000 HP, which is ludicrous for an SMT game, and it's more than Lucifer had in Nocturne. If you scale the numbers, appropriately, and it's just, if the Demi-Fiend dies because he's your damage dealer, he does like 7,000 damage a turn. You're not killing that boss before you run out of MP and MP restoring items if you've captured inventory with them and you haven't used any cheater DLC. There was an instance, though. There is one item. I did not have this item because I did not... I think I vendored it or got it stolen at some point. But if you manage to keep a consumable item that is a 1-use, and you can only get 1 per playthrough naturally, that gives you 1 press turn for 1 fight every turn, you can take it for this fight and make it way easier. But I did not go out of my way to do this because that feels like cheating. But that is the general strategy online, is go get this item and use it. Because there's just so much junk to manage. But I managed to pull it off on War Mode without using that item, without the cheater DLC, but with some really, really OP fused demons. And even then, they were still getting wrecked. All of his attacks pierce, by the way, and they can pierce through repel. So that's why he does not care what you come equipped with. So, yeah. I enjoyed the boss fight, but it's this thing where it was good content, but it was $3 for a single boss.
Yeah, it's a bit much, really.
I mean, it comes with a mini level associated with it that has 3 mini bosses, which are just generic monsters beefed up. But
that's a bit better.
The level's not very good. It's just a hallway called the Diamond Realm that has 3 hallways around it that loop around in a little mini maze that doesn't take very long to clear. It took me about 30 minutes my first time going through it. But yeah, so you're effectively paying $3.50 US for a boss. $3, that's probably really cheap if you do price conversions, but for me, looking at normal costs of DLC, that's a lot. So you'll have to be the judge of whether you think that is worth your purchase or not. But yeah, I enjoyed the game, actually going through it this time. For comparison's sake, I did a dumb.
A dumb, you say?
Yeah, because I'm mostly playing these games while I wait for Strange Journey to come out. And I went back and I already had Shin Megami Tensei 4 original stuck in my 3DS for data transfer, because you get bonuses if you have a copy of the game. So I booted it up to punch through a little bit of it, and oh goodness, this game is terrible.
And you knew this already.
You already knew this, yes.
They felt like the same game. It felt like what I remembered in SMT4 while playing Apocalypse, but then you boot up the original game and just so many things smack you in the face. Like about the 3rd time in a row on a random boss I'd saved outside the door of and had to reload 3 times when Jonathan used Bufu when it reflects Bufu and gave it smirk. I gave up and put the system down.
Yeah.
So my blood pressure doesn't need this.
Rename him to Mitsuru.
Yeah. Mitsuru would stop after it reflected once.
No,
Jonathan
she wouldn't.
would do it 3 times per encounter. Yeah, she would if you had the analyze skill and you didn't put her on aggressive.
Yeah, I usually had her on aggressive.
Yeah, don't do that.
in the hopes that it would cast something other than Murren Curran.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, they will just keep hitting the reflex over and over again. It's not fun to sit there and just be like, okay, do I actually get to play without my teammate just screwing me?
Nope.
No. Walter, don't shoot. Walter, please don't try the high crit, low hit move. You're gonna miss and give it smirk. Please, Walter, you just did it, didn't you? He's got smirk now. Great. He's gonna one-shot one of my dudes. And gets another press turn.
Also, lol, Walter.
Yeah, lol. That character has become a meme because of that scenario on the first wall boss in that game.
Ugh.
Which is immune to fire and physical, and those are the only types of moves he has. So if he's in your party, you just reload the game. So yeah, it's portable. It's on the 3DS, so that's why I've had time to actually chew through an RPG. I hate this system. As if to spite me, the second I used Loosey Goosey and got the 100% on the compendium, it just the little, the pad on the 3DS, the little stick.
Yep.
It turns out the rubbery stuff on top of that can come off.
Yeah, it does once it ages. It shrinks and just degrades.
I was moving my way across the map to sell some stuff for compendium resources, and just little pad just slid right off. Me and that 3DS show.
You have seemed to have gotten the absolute worst 3DS out there. I have not had half of the problems with it you have.
Like, I can understand some of them, but this system clearly just spiting me.
Yeah.
I need it to live through one more video game. If I can finish Strange Journey, I'm done with the thing. I'm throwing it in the trash.
That's what you get for buying a console that was built by the intern. Oh boy.
Vita's so much better. I would rather be playing the whole time I'm playing on the stupid thing. I'm like, I wish I was on my Vita. I wish I was on my Vita. I wish I was on my Vita. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the system. So I'm ready to be done with it. I cannot wait until I beat Strange Journey Redux and can call it done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has been my gaming for the week and work. And I'll leave it there because we're way over time.
We are horrendously over time because we've tangented like absolute bosses. Which is not necessarily a good thing.
I talked all in one breath there because I needed to cut the tangent, so we didn't have time.
Oh boy. Yeah. But we can't tangent too much off SMT unless we tangent into Persona. I'm just going to hang from the ceiling because reasons.
I will watch the Persona 5 anime inevitably at some point due to my obsession with the franchise.
Here's a better idea. Don't! It's not good!
I hang around in circles on the internet that talk about it occasionally. I'll need to know what's going on.
Yeah, just
There's
don't!
nobody on the internet worth listening to, so just don't bother.
Yeah, that anime, it's... To say it's outright bad is actually pretty accurate, but disappointing is probably the better word.
I don't think that it's outright bad, though. I think that it just doesn't... It's empty of content. Like, there's nothing there to be bad, so it can't really be bad.
That's worse than bad IMO.
Disappointing is probably better.
Well, but the thing is, as we've discussed in the past, I don't honestly see how it could have been otherwise.
True. It's more...
I can't think of a way that they could have made it good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They struck gold, and I don't think they'll strike it again with the way they accidentally bumbled into how to make the Persona 4 thing work halfway through it.
Yeah.
We're not going to see that again.
Probably not, no.
That was a stroke of luck, and it's very apparent looking at it.
Yeah. But hey, it worked out in the end, and yeah, they're not going to get that lightning to strike again, unfortunately. Not unless they turn Joker into the world's biggest douchebag. But that wouldn't work either.
Yeah, it's the sin of the heroic mime when you have to adapt it into something.
Yeah.
You can't make it work. It's impossible to summarize a story with a central protagonist that has no character to invest himself in it as it's supposed to mirror the players.
Yeah,
this has never worked.
Joker has a little bit of character, but he's still the heroic mime.
Well, the thing is that having a little bit of character is almost a weakness in this case.
Yeah,
Because they can't they can't even take liberties with his character.
they can't
they pretty much
contradict
just
what
have
has
to
been
stop
established.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, and like Charlie
Mind you,
had no-
apparently it's okay to contradict the name of the guy.
Yes.
I get why they didn't use Acura though, because that's a major character in Shin Megami Tensei Mainline 4 and Apocalypse.
It's also like,
So,
anime protagonist game name number 1.
Well, they couldn't have two protagonists that have a canonic name as Acura that close together in the same franchise, I suppose. I think that's why they didn't go with that name.
They got Yusuke and Yosuke. Why?
But in Japan, that's fine. Those names are clearly different if you're used to the language.
Hmm.
It's only people like us dumb Westerners who don't speak the holy language of Japanese that get those confused.
Clearly I am not weeb enough.
Yeah, Aria's sounding pretty transcendently weeb right now.
I'm making fun of the people that won't shut up about how awesome the Japanese language is anytime I talk about subs and dubs.
In other words, weebs.
Super
dear.
weebs.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Alrighty. We got some news.
There's a
I
few
didn't see any
things.
emails in the box.
Yeah, again, pre E3 doldrums. E3 is about a month away. Well, it is a month away now, actually. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
this month and a half ish before E3 is always a nightmare.
Yeah.
I didn't see any emails in the box, so I just checked again and there wasn't anything. So
Nope. So we might as well go down the list and see what we got.
let me see. Okay, yesterday. So does it start with yours or with mine? Those look like last week's stuff. Okay,
Yes,
yeah, this
yours.
week. I didn't put a page break in there. Okay. So yeah, we were talking about Monster Hunter World earlier. We can use that to segue.
Okay.
So Capcom's actually kind of sort of said something about their sales for once, which they have not been for the past few years.
Yeah.
They're really good. And they're like 17.5% better than like the last year's operating income, and this is the best year they've had in forever. With Monster Hunter selling almost 8 million units, I think, and being the leader of the charge for their financial success this year.
Yep.
What odds are the bookies giving that they weren't doing their lesson anyway?
I'm pretty hard on the side that whatever game they release next, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
If not that, the next one will be good, and then the following one will be the disaster.
gonna
that will
be-
start a chain.
We've actually
It's
got
gonna be
the
DMC Devil May Cry again.
no. We've actually got the name of the next game they're releasing, so we'll come back around to that.
But yeah, it's either the next game or the one after that that's going to start a chain reaction of them not knowing what to do with themselves because they have money again and don't have to worry about quality.
Here's an idea: go back and do Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite properly.
Yeah, fire Combo Fiend.
Yes.
I don't know why they hired a FGC dude in the first place. Guy didn't know crap about game design.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the dude when he's
Did-
commentating, but
did
he's
they
not a good game
actually-
designer.
Did they actually involve him in game design, or is he just
Oh,
basically...
yeah. He's the reason Spencer is still in the game. The Bionic Commando dude.
But nobody liked Bionic Command.
Nobody likes Spencer.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he was really good in classic Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and then ultimately got bad, so he wanted him to stay in the game so he had another shot. So
His arm is his wife. That says all you need to know right there.
That's
that's the thing.
That is
But
a
yeah,
thing.
it's a lot of the weird mechanics and stuff not being balanced correctly is Combo Fiend's fault. He was directly involved with the production of the game.
Yeah, that was a mistake. So yeah.
Though, to be fair, the majority of the blame is on the art team.
Oh yeah, a good chunk of it goes right there. So yeah.
yeah. I don't.
Combo Fiend just was the icing on the cake that made it really bad.
I'm sort of surprised about that in a way because its problems look more like the sort that I would expect to be typical of production failure as opposed to design failure.
Mm.
Like it's got a lot of the hallmarks of we didn't budget correctly with our money or our time, and at the concepting stage we didn't try enough different options, like that sort of thing. As opposed to we involved a guy who's like incompetent at the job that we paid him for.
Well, yeah. Well, there was financial issues with the game where they just didn't give them any money to make it.
Yeah.
There was that. The game was made with less than no budget. It had less, according to one interview from one of the developers on it. It just had less budget than a single piece of Street Fighter V DLC to make the entire game.
Oh boy,
that's how shoestring they were.
That is
probably why they brought Cabo Feet in, because they could pay him pennies.
pay him less than pennies. Pay him in Red Bull.
Yeah.
So yeah, Capcom actually made money because they did Monster Hunter World and didn't screw it up.
Yeah, looks like Monster Hunter World paid off and was a good investment.
I'm still sort of like pleasantly baffled about that. Like, how can a company go from being so incompetent to being so good and such a like, how are they the same company?
Yeah,
how is there no communication there?
We've talked about how their development teams seem super segregated before.
Yes,
like, this is just within the span of a year, you have the same company, which theoretically shares the same funding and some of the same developers across games as we had Infinite and we had Monster Hunter World.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, yeah. So with that note, we've actually got an announcement that Monster Hunter World Generations is getting an Ultimate version on the Switch, which oddly enough lets you transfer your data over from the first generations over to Ultimate. I don't know how, because they're on entirely different consoles, but yeah, apparently you will be able to do that. So,
Monster Hunter is just all about numbers, so
yeah,
you can have the game make a text file equivalent and boop it over the internet or whatever.
Yeah, it's just like all you need is a list of the gear that you've got equipped and the statistics of your character, and that's basically all the information it needs.
Yeah, so you'd have to just boop it through your network or something.
Yeah, just write a program to auto-write like a text file or whatever they use to boop, and then boop it across LAN or the internet, and you're done.
Boop is the technical term, by the way.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I don't have a Switch, but for those who are new to the series and you want to see how the old series was, there you go. It's got a buttload of monsters in it. It does have the arts mechanic, as far as I know, making a return. I never really got the hang of that. Where you had each weapon had a set of arts you could associate with it, which in some cases entirely changed up the playstyle. Which was good.
I'm okay with experimental gameplay and things not being documented, more so than a good chunk of people. But the older Monster Hunter games, if they're even worse than World, I think that crosses my line.
Worse, I wouldn't say. Not necessarily. Also, some people will definitely make that argument. Different.
People have been talking non-stop about how Monster Hunter World is for casuals.
Yes, they have.
This worries me, and a lot of the quality of life stuff that seems like it makes this game work at all, like the zones you go to being fluid zones, isn't there, and I feel like I wouldn't enjoy the game if those zones were broken up into subzones.
It's something you get used to, but now that I've played,
you get unused to. Like after you've played the series, and if you were to go back, as with the current standard being the only real reference point you have for the series, going back to something that has those broken up zones, I don't think it's going to sit real well.
Oh no! Like, if I had the choice, I would definitely stick with the world option because, let's face it, it's good. It's really, really good.
Though whoever does their graphics compression needs to be replaced because those loading times show.
Again, they're better than they used to be.
That is not helpful. Those loading times show.
Initially, you had a slightly or somewhat shorter loading time than you have in World at the moment, but you also had a loading screen between each of the that marked zones on the map. And yeah, okay, that was usually only maybe 10 or 20 or 10 seconds at the most. But that adds up.
Yeah. When the game gets divided into 50 subzones with 5 big zones and having 10 zones each or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, that's roughly the numbers. That's roughly right.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like, oh crap, the monster's stuck right over the edge of the horizon and I happen to kill it while it was off the cross point and I'm going to transition into the zone if I go and try and loot it because I know it's going to happen every single time.
They could also cheat and just teleport between zones using shortcuts that were not accessible to the other player. Wow, hello,
Yeah.
they have not fixed the fire physics on this either. Oh boy.
I
So-
see.
Yeah, oh dear. Fire is not supposed to work that way in a storm. It's supposed to just blow out, not trail off sideways for a long way. Ugh. Anyway, so yeah,
Cannot open your stream to see what you're doing, otherwise our internet will tank.
yes, that's okay. My torch just broke. So, yeah, you got Generations Ultimate coming up. I'd play it if I had a Switch. Because what it makes up for in not having all the conveniences of World, it makes up for by having just stupid amounts of monsters.
I still like Weird World though, and I'm still bad enough at Monster Hunter. There's plenty of stuff for me to do in it.
What's the difficulty compared to World? Because that would be a selling point if the monsters.
Everybody says it's harder, but I don't know if everybody is just a douchebag.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
can be a bit of a douchebag.
Monster Hunter
Variety is kind of a difficulty if the movesets are actually radically different.
I'd say once you get your handle of your weapon and what art you're using, it's roughly equivalent, maybe a little bit harder. But that said, and I know the article I actually posted makes this sound like a new idea, it's not. There is G rank, which is above H rank, your high ranks, where
Okay.
everything takes a big step up in difficulty.
Is that like hate yourself mode level difficulty, or
Yeah.
is that just a pretty big step up?
It can get that way, yes.
Because right now I feel that
Does it make the hitboxes more unpleasant?
Well, look at it this way. It makes Diablos
You
hit
get
harder.
checked. But you already get insta-jabbed by Diablos.
Yes.
If you're me, you do.
Yes.
I wouldn't even notice a difference in that scenario.
I would be
And
fine with him
faster.
as long as if his tail worked, I would not have a problem with that boss.
Nah, his tail, I believe, is still a little bit dodgy. It always has been.
Yeah, in World, the only problem I have with Diablos is his tail. I will try to do stuff because I swear it's not active, and I'll get knocked across the map when that tail was perfectly still.
Nope. That's
Like,
that's
what
Diablo,
is- Ugh.
not Diablos.
Yeah, that's my only problem with that monster in the game. Is
Yeah.
I mess up when I want to attack and go in and wind up messing myself up.
Yes.
But yeah, I feel like I'm. It might get me if it's a bit harder because I need to turn the knob up, not to stupid hate yourself difficulty level, but like one notch up in Monster Hunter to really start enjoying it again and get back into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to gauge the difficulty exactly because, yeah, the fights are harder, but I'm wondering how much of that is due to the inconveniences of the previous games. Like Monster Hunter World takes away a lot of the screwing around, adds in a whole lot of shortcuts, and the combat just flows so much better. It's smoother.
Yeah, I've watched videos and read about the past games, and the farming in this game is relatively minimal comparatively to what's going on in the older games.
Yes. Unless you're
Like,
really, really unlucky.
Yeah, until you don't really have to farm until you get to end game and you start using up all the materials you stockpiled.
Yes.
But yeah, so there's a lot of walls in these older games. But yeah, I just wish there was another difficulty level above what I'm at right now with Tempered.
Yep.
Like, I feel Tempered just isn't quite hard enough for in game. I wish there was another step up.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe there will be. You never know.
Yeah.
They may breed G rank across. I would actually know. I bet you'll have to wait for Monster Hunter World Ultimate for that. Because at the end of the day,
it's Capcom at the end.
it's still Capcom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's plus Ultra.
So
Arcade
predictable.
Edition
Eek! No.
2015.
Even if the game has never appeared in an arcade before, they would still be able to do an arcade edition.
They would try.
Yeah. Oh dear. But yeah, Monster Hunter is a great game. If once I get out of game feel with it for a while and calm down and don't have a whole lot of practice sitting on me, I'll probably pick it back up again.
Yeah.
But
I think that it's still going to be my game of choice for quite a while yet, because I don't have a huge amount of time to sink into it. I'm pretty bad at action games in general, but I feel like I'm starting to get to the point where I can look at a monster and say, yeah, I can kill that.
Yeah.
Like, I just went and killed Tempered O'Doggo, and you remember what I was like trying to kill regular O'Doggo back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just face checked him and murdered him. No problems.
Take that, O'Doggo.
Yeah. I went into Monster Hunter World after playing like 4 3D action games in a row that have a reputation for difficulty. No, I'm not saying the name. So I was well practiced in the genre when I went into it.
Yeah. Yep.
So I need to put 3D action games down for a while before I pick them back up to really find fun with the game again.
Yeah,
Bayonetta was too hard for me. Like, I stopped playing it because I spent too much time reloading. Like, that's how bad I am at this genre of game. You have a third person you hit. Like, I'm just not good at it.
Beat Rodan.
Yeah.
He had his way with you, man.
He has his way with everybody.
For at least 40 attempts, yeah.
Yeah.
If you can get phase 2, which is hard by itself. I still have the nightmares. 4-frame killer bee. 4-frame killer bee from the sky. Camera's not focused on the boss. Yep, that's fair.
Totally
fair.
fair.
Rodon. 4 frames.
Oh boy. Incidentally, I've played some more Nier Automata. I have no idea what's going on. Apparently the future is being controlled by Bishonen, though.
If you knew what was going on, it would not be a Yoko Taro game.
No.
The point of Yoko Taro games is the concept of the universe is not going to click until the end of the game for the game you're playing. And everything he has is set in the same universe. So after that, to get all the answers, you then have to go media hopping to short stories and past games.
Not doing that.
As a matter of interest, one of the events in Monster Hunter World at the moment is just to fight Xeno'jiiva, and it's been up for quite a while, if I recall correctly. Which makes me wonder why they have that silly spawn system still. Because preceding having Xeno'jiiva up as an event was having Zora Magdaros up as.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why they have that stupid system in there still.
I don't know.
Maybe close to launch, they realized that system was a dumb idea, and this is their way of putting a band-aid on it.
But the event goes away.
So, yeah, it does.
I didn't say it was a sticky band-aid.
So long as it's something, just spam it if you need the stuff.
Yeah.
That's typical events, isn't it?
Yep. So, anyway, while we're on the topic of Monster Hunter, we have one other bit of news related to it.
Yeah.
We do. Pick it.
We do. We have the Monster Hunter movie. We have some details.
Oh, right, that thing.
Yeah.
You sound like you tasted something bad.
Yeah, I did.
It tastes
all
like
the Resident Evil movies, and they're terrible.
I saw the first one like an eternity ago.
It tastes like a camp, is what it tastes like. So
I just read this before the show and already forgot about it.
Oh boy. So yeah, we've mentioned before that there's going to be a Monster Hunter movie come out. It looks like the director is the same guy who did the Resident Evil reboot. Oh, the Resident Evil movies. What was it? Constantine Films.
They are the most bland movies you've ever seen in your life.
The first one was bad, but at least it was enjoyably bad. In a an ironic sort of way.
By the standards of video game films, it is probably a work of art just because it's not a train wreck, but it's still bad.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Really, really bad. And then after that, boring. They went...
Like, it is...
Yeah, you ended up with superpowered Jesus Wesker after that.
Well, you wind up with that in the games, too.
Well, true.
Wesker's kind of an odd duck as far as game characters go. Like, what is the deal with that guy?
He draws his power from the pure power of ham. Also, really stupid decisions.
He lives in a... He doesn't merely draw his power from ham. He carries a slaughterhouse with him everywhere.
Yes.
So that he's always got, some ham on hand.
The man is made of bacon.
He has become a running joke in the fighting game community ever since he was included in Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
Everything about him is just a joke.
Yeah.
Like, he's like fill your soul with light tier.
So yeah, okay, that's a running thing in Resident Evil is, Wesker being pure pork and Umbrella being, mustache-twirlingly evil for no apparent reason.
Well, I mean, in the situation of the Monster Hunter movie, they're going to have free reign to create whatever kind of character they want.
Well, there's not a whole lot of... There's plenty of established lore, but not a whole lot of established characters.
Well, that's why I said they can have a free hand.
Yeah, I don't even know about the lore part. Like, the wiki doesn't have very much.
Well, there's probably like 4 different wikis, and they probably
there are,
have
but
3 people working each one.
Yeah, like none of the wikis have anything about the history of the world that's anything more than a paragraph and a half.
Everything I know about Monster Hunter comes from a children's cartoon.
That actually has most of the lore in it. It skips over a few things, but yeah, it's got a good chunk of the lore in it.
That is the sum total of my knowledge, and a lot of it involves like the Calico Ginyu Force.
That's a thing, isn't it?
The sum total of my knowledge is anecdotal quips about past games on the Monster Hunter World TV Tropes page.
Also
That's
that.
it.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want the lore, you're going to have to dig for it, because it isn't easy to find.
Yeah, even in games, it's not easy to find.
Like,
so
for
they
example...
can do whatever they want with this movie, effectively.
Yeah. Like, if I was to start talking about black dragons in the Monster Hunter universe, just about nobody would know what I'm talking about.
I can make a joke right here, but I'm not going to.
No, because it would probably be racist.
Yes, it would.
Yeah,
It'd
see?
be very racist.
You're getting predictable, sir.
Can't help it. According to the media, it's in the blood.
Apparently so. So yeah, that's the thing. If they screw up the monster fights, like if the monster fights are at least interesting to watch and a real spectacle, then I'll be happy with this movie. It can do whatever else it likes. However, I also have a very strong suspicion these Monster Hunter fights are going to be really, really crappy CG. Like, really crappy.
Yeah, they're self-funding, aren't they?
I believe so, yeah.
So that means it's going to be cheap.
Very, very cheap.
If the whoever's funding this thing doesn't look too closely at
I said it's self-funding.
Oh, I thought you said they were still figuring out their funding, not they were doing it.
It's self-funding. They are paying for it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, this is going to be
Alright. Yep. So they're doing their shooting around Cape Town in South Africa at the moment, which is fine. I suppose we'll have the right kind of landscape you're looking for.
More to the point, it's cheap and,
It's also extremely cheap to shoot in South Africa. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's why a lot of people come to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want like cut rate in mountains and forests, then you come to New Zealand.
Yeah.
If you want jungle, then you go to South Africa.
Yeah. I mean, you have to risk getting arrested for blinking twice, but I mean,
and getting carjacked.
No, South Africa doesn't have law. Like, that's the problem there.
Oh, I'm confused. I'm with somebody else then.
You're probably thinking Singapore.
UK.
I forget who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So we shall see. Optimistically pessimistic,
I'm not
maybe.
Watching this thing.
Speaking of getting arrested for blinking twice, my friend Max has moved over to the UK to look for work. He's a citizen of Britain, so it's not difficult for him to move over there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically he had to get a mobile plan,
right,
for internet. And so he got one, and he was like, "Why can't I go to DeviantArt on my phone?" because he's got a DeviantArt account because he likes to do art in his free time. And it turns out that DeviantArt, because it technically has adults-only content, is banned on that network.
You what?
Yeah.
This is why competition is good, folks. You go with the company that doesn't do that.
This is government over-regulation.
This is government regulation. They don't have the option of competition. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't matter how many companies there were, they'd all still be bound by the law.
Yeah, they've been trying to implement something in Australia for several years now, except they keep getting told to sod off in exactly the way Australians do. Loudly and vulgarly.
Last week on the show, I was saying about how involving the government in things only makes more problems. This is that, writ large.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
This is what that is. Oh, boy.
The only thing the government can do is remove customer and citizen choice. That's it. And that's not good for anybody.
Alright, what else we got? We don't have a whole lot. I think there's one other thing at least.
We got a few things. There was one big thing that relates to the E3 reveals. Let me make sure we covered everything else. Oh, there's two things left. We can do this. We can skip the Dragon Ball FighterZ thing because it's not big.
Nah.
It's getting co-op, so you can play with other people on your team. Each player plays a character. That's it. We're done. Okay.
Yay.
Next one. So we'll do. I'm trying to load the page. Okay. So the Nintendo Switch got some details on its online stuff.
Yes.
So thankfully, they're not trying to gouge you an arm and a leg for it, but they're still using it to nickel and dime you.
Maybe a few fingers.
Sad. Yeah, they may not take your whole limb, but they're taking a few digits.
Yeah.
Just as much as it needs to get your wallet out from it.
Yeah,
yes.
Just enough to get your credit card number punched in the system to make purchases easier. That's what this is. But yeah, they're only charging $4 for it a month in US. There are different plans. Like you can get 12 for 12 months. They have for 20, I think, for solo. And I'm not sure what the words family mean when it says you can get a family plan for $34 a month. Like
linked accounts, I would suspect, but given it's Nintendo,
it was linked accounts.
Yeah,
I don't know how though. Nintendo doesn't use accounts; they use console IDs.
They've used accounts for a while now. They just tie it to a console ID.
Maybe you can tie more than one console ID to an account.
Maybe, I don't know. Nintendo's really backwards about how they do this stuff. So
it's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, they put the price points out, and that price point, I'm not gonna beat them too hard for it, but it's still an online another service you have to pay for if you're playing video games. So I don't know. I think their online is not up to snuff to begin with, because their idea of competing with the PS Plus free games and whatever the Xbox is doing, because it had to compete with it now too, is here's like 10 NES games at launch. Because instead of just putting all these ROMs up for purchase like every other game publisher does, Nintendo's like, okay, once in a while, we'll upload a ROM that you can download and pay for. But yeah, you get like Legend of Zelda, Ice Climbers, Balloon Fight, Donkey Kong, and a few Mario games. So yeah, we don't have any more details on it than that.
I heard there's no virtual console.
On the Switch?
They just aren't. They aren't planning to do that, despite the fact that virtual console is like one of the most popular features that they've ever deployed.
Yeah,
it's like, you know what our flagship console needs? Not that.
Not the thing that people liked.
Yeah, even then, the virtual console was a mess. Like, ugh, it's just, I hate everything about Nintendo and online.
I haven't bought a Nintendo. I haven't bought a Nintendo system since my DS, and I haven't bought one of their home consoles since '64. I don't have any intention of changing that.
That collectively bought Switch in my basement has been used, like, play one video game and then has collected dust. We've used it for the intended purpose we bought it for twice.
Oh dear.
It is effectively a wall mount.
Maybe when the totally not just a rehash Smash comes out, it'll get.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Although SMT5 is Switch exclusive, so I'm glad I got it.
Also, yes, I forgot about that.
Yep. The mainline SMT games are now like they're Nintendo exclusive ever since the SNES. So yeah, Switch Online's a thing, and we got prices now. I can't really beat them up too much for that. 1/3-ish the price of the other big console online stuff out there for 1/50th the content. Still seems a bit bad, but
oh dear.
You know, what can you do? It's Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo doesn't understand the internet. Let's see. So yeah, not a lot to say there. Where is it? Okay. So in the lead up to E3, this picture is very small, and unfortunately I can't find a bigger one. So I looked all for like 20 minutes before the show to try and find a bigger picture of this thing. But so Walmart had apparently gotten a memo of some games that they could list as coming soon that were going to be brought up at E3. And what legitimized this was a few developers tweeting back at them going like, dudes, really? And stuff like that.
What?
Like the official.
I'm absolutely not following what you're talking about because you're being too.
So
yeah.
Okay. So Walmart got a list of games that are going to be coming out soon-ish that they can post on their online stores and stuff as something you can pre-order that is going to be revealed or talked about at E3. And this, the reason that we know it's a legit list of stuff that's going to be a topic at E3 is because developers are mad about it and are tweeting Walmart and responding to the leak. Like the official Bethesda Twitter account just replied to the leak actually happening with the word "dude." So we have a
but that doesn't
list of
necessarily
games
mean
that
anything.
is.
Don't people say that all the time on the coast?
Yeah, but there's a few more pictures down here. Hang on. But what's his name? Some guy named Ryan Brown, who I don't know, apparently said, yeah, these are for realsies things that are in development and are very likely to be talked about for most of the list, because apparently he has some insider info on a good chunk of them.
Okay.
He's some air quote games journalist. So there's a lot of stuff that makes this look pretty legit. Unfortunately, the only picture I could find of this thing is itty bitty. So let's see here. We have Tom Clancy's Division 2, Splinter Cell, just PS4 Splinter Cell, Insurgency Sandstorm on PS4, Last of Us 2, Just Cause 4, WWE 2K19, some Ass Creed thing.
There's always some Ass Creed thing.
Dragon's Quest 2 on PS4 and PS4 and 3 or Xbox, almost 360. Far Cry 5, something DLC that's going to be talked about. Just Cause 4, which I don't think has been revealed or talked about yet, so that's one that drew a few eyebrows. Let's see. Destiny Comet, whatever that is for Destiny. Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox One. They're
going to talk about that now, are they?
Yeah,
well,
the new.
I don't understand why anybody would.
Oh, the only reason it's on here is because on the Xbox One instead of when people were originally saying it was going to be a PS4 exclusive. We knew
this is what people were saying. It wasn't. Nobody else said that. It's just people.
Yeah, it's just people assumed it, and I guess they didn't give it much thought.
I think it's probably to do with the weight of the brand. People are very, bizarrely partisan about it for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know the rest of the Switch stuff that's already been talked about. Where is it? Borderlands 3 on PS4 is a thing that might happen. That's worrying. I really hope they kick the "Hey, Ash, what you playing" guy out of the writer's seat.
I'm pretty sure that they think that guy's like the reason for Borderlands' success. Like, that's what I think the current opinion is, based on the sort of idiocy that Gearbox has displayed lately. Like, I wouldn't expect much. In fact, I expect the utter crashing and burning of the franchise.
Yeah. What else? We've known about Beyond Good or Evil 2 for a while. So it's there, and a few other things. You can go look at the list if you really want the full thing. This picture's way too hard to read. I would just list them all, but I cannot zoom in. It's hurting my eyes. So yeah. There's a few things we did not know were there, so the surprises are out now.
Maybe.
Very likely. From what I've read digging around looking for the picture of the list, this appears to be pretty legitimate. There's a TechRaptor article on it that you can go dig up that's still on the front page.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Just some foreshadowing for E3, stuff that we'll probably talk about later.
Well, we're going to have a good rant about E3 because, E3, it's always worth a good rant. But we'll have that at a time.
Oftentimes, though, the ranting is because E3 is not worth a good rant.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. The games industry kind of wore itself out last year, I'm thinking pretty soon we're going to hit a point where we hit a low point and there's no good games for a bit. Because last year, so much good stuff came out back to back to back.
We've had that cycle happen before where you had one good, really, really good year and then after that's kind of for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think we're approaching that point where there will be a stray game release that I look forward to, but nothing like last year where I was excited to buy something every single month.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing here looks particularly good from what's been leaked in that Walmart list. Just none of that's exciting.
So long as we're not going to have to watch... Well, we're probably going to have to spend most of our time watching more of that stuff about that game about androids.
David Cage's thing.
For some reason, there's someone somewhere in some marketing department who is important, who thinks that everybody is always super excited for the latest David Cage offering.
They are wrong. Nobody is.
Maybe people who don't play games are. Maybe that's what the... Like, games journalists, for instance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, maybe... Well, all they can handle is QuickTime events and movies, so...
So they enjoyed Bad Dad Simulator.
Yeah. Which makes me seriously doubt the merits of that game.
Yes.
But they always... I actually saw a clip. I couldn't follow it up, and I really wasn't interested in following it up. Clipic is a dingbat. But there was something written by Clipic which was talking about how he was written an article, and it was talking about how he's part of this grand cognoscenti of gaming who decide how games are viewed.
Oh, good grief!
Like it was completely him patting himself and his fellows on the back. Like, it was an article about how cool he thinks he is.
Oh boy!
Entirely without irony. Like,
now just. The entire games journalism industry has their heads so far up their butt, they probably all think like that.
It was quite impressive. Like, I would have thought that even if they believe all that stuff, that they would at least have the marginal competence not to talk about it publicly.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No, the answer is no.
Oh boy.
They've started making a spiral with their torso, their heads so far up their butt.
That's an image I didn't need.
No, you did not.
Just the level of self-delusion these people in the games journalism industry have for themselves and the world around them is baffling.
Well, they've never met anybody that they disagreed with, like, except on Twitter. Like, that's the only contact they have with the outside world, and they block anybody who disagrees with them there.
Yeah. Echo chambers are bad, folks.
Very, very bad.
Yes. All right, I think that's everything. We're way over time.
We are. We tangented too much.
Yeah.
Too much. There.
I wish I could have covered the Walmart thing better, but the only picture is in a horrible resolution.
That's okay. It's probably best we don't have the whole list. Because then how are we going to get good and angry on the day when it's already been spoiled?
Well, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be pretty angry by the time I've finished watching like the nth trailer of the latest David Cage vomit. Or perhaps I'll just feel queasy for having watched the latest Death Stranding trailer.
I'm still confused by that game. I have no idea what it is or what it's about. Something about babies.
It's a Kojima fever dream, like so many others.
Kojima finally got his leash cut off, and he's having a lot of fun. That's what it is.
By being extremely strange.
By doing a huge amount of LSD.
It seems that way. Ugh.
Him and Guillermo del Toro just drop acid the whole time they're talking about the game.
Oh boy. Alright, we should probably start to wrap up then.
Right, don't do drugs, kids.
No, don't do drugs.
All right. Email topic of the week is LOL Monster Hunter. There you go.
Just LOL Monster Hunter?
Yeah. Everything about it and how it's been super successful. There's like 4 articles that talked about it this week. So.
Yeah.
Closing comments go.
One of these days we will get a video game movie which is really, really good. Eventually.
I am deeply amused that the games journalist reaction to Monster Hunter World was the opposite of what it was to DMC Devil May Cry, and the outcome was also the opposite.
Where they decried it as being bad, and they were wrong.
Yeah, they said that it was basically like the stance that the journalists took on Monster Hunter World was sort of like the stance that the moral majority took on Doom.
Yes,
Like,
that's right.
They accept that it was about environmentalism. Because if there's one thing that the progressive left doesn't care about, it's human beings. But if there's one thing they do care about, it's fluffy animals.
Fluffy bunnies. There's no fluffy animals.
Provided that the animals do not need feeding and they do not need pooping, and they're not like, you don't have to eat them or anything like that. Like they like the entirely artificial form of animal that doesn't exist in the real world. And I'd have you know, Paolumu is perfectly fluffy.
As is Inoga, kind of. Oh dear.
I don't want
Bug number 27 for this game. Occasionally, the slave on the Wheel of Pain, his head will vanish. Just every now and again, it just disappears. He walks around headless.
Oh, okay. So he's still alive?
Technically, I guess.
It wasn't removed from his body. It just became invisible.
It's just not there anymore.
The man with the invisible head.
It's okay. It comes back. I can't
Sounds
seem
like
to.
a novel from the early 1900s.
I can't seem
Did
to.
they release that game? Or is it still in early access for like the zillionth month?
They released it.
Right.
No, I cannot get it to replicate again. His head will just not. Oh no, there it goes. It's gone again. It's back again. I can't quite replicate it.
Uh-huh.
I think it's just.
All right.
Yeah.
I
there we
need to
go.
actually recline here. So we should probably wrap this up because I'm extremely sore.
Oh dear.
Do not let the company that your insurance hires to fix house damage, tell you anything, because they're liars. Just by the way. Ugh.
Oh boy.
Oh, furniture too heavy. Gonna have to get 5 more dudes to come over and move it.
That's health and safety, and that's an entire rant we could go on, but let's not.
Yeah.
I don't think that an organization which employs illegal Mexicans is worried about the government regulation on health and safety.
But no.
I don't think.
Yeah, but then they employ someone specifically for that job, and that's their entire job, is just to get in the way.
They don't even speak English.
They had their iPhone playing Spanish reggae right outside my office for 8 hours a day. And then don't put the room back together despite promising they were going to. And I'm the only person who has the ability to even lift one half of the furniture. So I had to improvise dollies and hand trucks to put everything back together. It was a mess. I'm really sore. So we're going to end the show so I can lay back in my chair. All right. We will catch y'all next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.